This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. Yo, what's going on, freaks? Yeah, I was just getting some technical difficulties worked out there. Got to get the chat going on the side there. But like I said, we're gonna have Colleen Fitzpatrick is on Friday with Fitz. All right, that's what she called herself on Facebook. But anyways, I'm gonna put her on the screen right now. Oh, there she is. How's it going, Colleen?
Oh, doing pretty good. Pretty good. Glad to see everybody. Fridays, so glad to get to Friday. Just murder, rape, sexual assault all week. And finally you get to Friday, you can relax.
Well, apparently not. Because there we go again. Yeah, so maybe you can give us a quick update if you can on the 1961 hitchhiker case.
All right. Well, this is there's three. First of all, let me preface, I had kind of a busy week, but I did make progress. The remains, that they exhumed and that they did the previous extraction on are at University of North Texas, and they have them. Now, they didn't get any DNA the first time, but there's other ways that have developed since then that we could use. And then the second thing, let's see, the Bibb County coroner is really happy about all this. And so I've spoken to him. He knows kind of what's going on. And then the other thing is to, get the right company to act as like the nonprofit that can accept the funds. And I've sort of almost set that up with Intermountain Forensics in Salt Lake City. That's a new lab that's coming online, and it's a nonprofit to do some of this processing. So the parts, all the working parts are there. I've just got to get the duct tape and the and the 3-in-1 oil. But yeah, it's good. It's all good. And this coming week, I'll make it'll be a little bit better week for me. I'll get things more set up and try and get also the. Had to figure out who's going to do the bone extraction, and it ought to be Astria Forensics at the University of Santa Clara, and they do better bone extraction. They use ancient DNA techniques that are used for mummies and stuff like that. They had the first came in the news because of what was her name, Edith Cook, the little girl that was buried. She died in 1876, and she was buried in San Francisco. Okay, that's fine. But then, since then, somebody has, had the whole place has been developed, and they were, I think, renovating a house in the area, and they found this airtight coffin with this child buried in it, and they didn't know who it was, and they did a bunch of work on it. But it was her hair. They got DNA, I think I'm telling you right, from her hair. And Ed Green was the one to get the DNA from her hair using ancient DNA stuff that he knows. And they were able to identify her through her, it would be, she is somebody's great-great aunt or something. And the living person gave the DNA to match against the hair. And so Ed Green kind of came in the news, and now he's went away from the university. Well, he's still at the university, but he has his own company called Astria Forensics that does that kind of thing for us. So I'm going to set that up as well. Let me see if I can get that going once I coordinate with the coroner and the UNT, because the coroner has the legal ownership of those remains. So all the moving parts are there. They just have to be all oiled and duct taped together, and we'll do it. We'll do it.
Sounds good. So today you're going to give us sort of the basics of what you do, right? Genealogy, right?
Yeah. Yep. So what I thought I'd do, and this was on invitation from Gray, what I thought I'd do is I have a talk, or, variations on a talk that I give to police officers all the time, and detectives, I'd say normal people that need to know how this works. And so I thought I'd give a few of those slides, because it will give you an idea of what happened, why it works. And I have 2 case studies that I can kind of show you what happened, and kind of it'll make sense. I have lots of slides of case studies, but I picked 2 real easy ones. One of them is a murder case I solved in Rhode Island. It was a murder of Jack Fay a few years ago. It was in the last 5 years, I think 2014 or 15. And then I'm going to show you how we solved Buckskin Girl. If you remember, was the second case solved. She was solved before the Golden State Killer. It was a 37-year-old case, and we solved it in 4 hours. And I'll show you how we did that. We got kind of lucky. All right, let's put it that way. But I'll show you how we did that. And that's an easy enough case. And I'm aiming it at medium. Some people out there probably have taken ancestry tests and stuff and know enough. And then some don't even know how to spell DNA. I get that. So, even hang in there and, you'll get something out of it. I kind of aimed at that. So not rocket scientists or anything.
Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, if somebody can't spell DNA, they really absolutely wouldn't get it no matter what. But I'm hoping...
No, you don't understand. It's not the people who can't spell DNA that are the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is the people who don't admit that they can't spell DNA.
There you go.
That's the problem.
Well, there you go. So I guess you can just share your screen and get started, right?
Yeah. And listen, don't anybody fall asleep. If it really kind of gets you, go get a drink of water and come back, because, it might be good later.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be turning down my air conditioning here in a minute. So, hold on. I think she's going to be sharing the screen. Now, let me switch to this one. There you go.
Okay, are we all in Gray? I can't see the chat, so if anybody raises their hand and says I can't see the screen, or she's going too fast, or the screen screwed up, you tell me that.
All right.
And I'll something that I need to correct to slow down or speed up, or anyway. This is what I thought I'd do. Is this genealogy has been around for a long time. There were probably cave children sitting around the cave fire with their cave parents, asking about their cave grandparents. And, DNA's been around a while, and say genetic genealogy's been around a while. But one day, suddenly, we see in the news that all these cold cases are being solved with genealogy and with DNA and genetic genealogy. So the first question is, what happened? What caused that to happen? It was not just the Golden State Killer that caused that. Identification of the Golden State Killer, we know all about that. But the question is, what was the prior art? What led up to that? What suddenly opened the door? What made the explosion happen? So the first thing is I'm going to tell you a little bit of chronology of how the buildup came about to the Golden State Killer. In 2000 was the first time genealogists had DNA available for their research. There were some direct-to-consumer, DTC, direct-to-consumer companies that offered it to genealogists, because they sometimes, when you do genealogy, you really hope the documentation is around. And then, your birth certificates, burial records, whatever, census records. But a lot of times nothing's around. You can't find any, documentation on somebody. So they figured that DNA would be a way to find long lost relatives. I had my brother sign up for the I started the Fitzpatrick study back in 2000, and I signed my brother up to see if he would match other Fitzpatricks, then I could continue my research. But up to 2000, I pretty much exhausted all the Fitzpatricks in my universe, and I never found any new ones that I didn't already know about. So I figured that if he took a DNA test and he matched other Fitzpatricks, that would be another way to reach out and find those people. So in 2005, I published a book called Forensic Genealogy, and it was really a hobby book. It was meant to apply real simple scientific stuff to solve genealogical mysteries. How to date old photographs, how to look at data and really squeeze a lot of information out of it. It was pretty easy stuff. And I thought everybody was doing this, but I was surprised that that wasn't the case. Forensic genealogy, the important thing is it didn't really have anything to do with the legal stuff we do, but it coined the term forensic genealogy in a way that stuck and didn't go away. 2006, 23andMe was founded, and that was a different kind of test. The original tests only used Y DNA. The Y chromosome is handed along the male line of the family with the family name. So before this, you really were stuck with just studying the male line because most of the test had to do with the Y chromosome. My brother has my dad's DNA, my grandpa, his father. So I could only study the male line until now, but then 23andMe came along and they used a different kind of test called SNP testing that accessed all the lines of the family. So now I myself could take it, and they use a different marker called a SNP. And I didn't have time to go into that, but I certainly will at some point if you want me to. Anyway, the important thing, it was a new kind of test and it was more comprehensive. So about 2011, I was in Seattle for a genealogy conference, and I went over to the Seattle Police Department. And I said, hey, I have an idea on how to use genealogy to solve your cases. If you give me the Y profile from a homicide, I will take that Y DNA and I will compare it to the Y DNA in the genetic genealogy databases. And if I find a match, that will give you the probable last name for your killer. And this is simply what male adoptees were doing for 10 years, 11 years. They had their Y DNA done, they'd match it to the genealogy databases, and if they found a match to Smith, then their dad was probably named Smith. So I said, let me do this with the Y profiles, not from an adoptee, but from an unknown assailant on a murder case. So eventually what happened is when I went, this is a little cartoon of what happened. It did not go down very well. This is me. I was much thinner then. And this is the detectives who were basically falling asleep in the meeting and arguing with me, and I didn't know what whatever, it wouldn't work. And they would not even give me their business cards. However, Jody Sass, who was the director of the DNA lab, she understood what I was talking about. And she said there was a case that they brought to her every 6 months, and that she always had to tell them that she didn't have any new stuff to do, so she'd turn them away. But she said that if they came again, she'd pass on my contact information, which she did. And this turned out to be the Sarah Yarborough case. It's a homicide of 1991 of a high school junior who went to school for a drill team field trip and never lived the morning out. Somebody pulled her in the bushes, raped her, and strangled her. It's their case. They really wanted to solve it. So they fast forward a little bit. I can explain, that's another talk for another time, that it was really an unusual case, and this was the first time this had ever been tried, 10 years ago. And the leads went away, but in 2019, we got the case again with the new kind of testing, with the autosomal SNP testing, the ancestry-like stuff, and the Golden State Killer kind of stuff. And we solved it within a matter of 2 weeks. By the way, I won an international award for that. It was 5th place in Cold Case Hit of the Year. and I won 5th place out of 50 entries from 20 countries.
It should have been first.
I know.
Yeah.
In 2014, I kept doing this with the Y-DNA, and I went to Phoenix. I was in Phoenix for a conference, and I went to the Phoenix Police Department, told them my idea, and they gave me the Y-DNA on the Phoenix Canal murders. And I came up with the name Miller by matching their Y profile to the genetic genealogy Y-DNA databases. This narrowed down their suspects from 2,000 to 5. And of those 5, there was only one it could be, and he matched what they were looking for. So they collected his DNA, and it matched the crime scene out of the blue. And he was arrested. It's a death penalty case in Phoenix. And sooner or later, they're going to have to put him on trial. They're going to run out of delays. I will say I won 5th place in Cold Case Hit of the Year in 2018 for this case, as the first case solved with genetic genealogy. And yes, I should have won, but they wouldn't take me because the guy had not been put on trial yet, and they did not want to seem to influence the outcome of the trial. So I got 5th place out of 61 entries from 14 countries.
So they buried you. They still gave you an award, though. Isn't that sort of sick? Also giving credibility to the... Oh,
absolutely. I am thrilled to get both. I mean, I think I'm the only double winner here. If you can go to the website and see what the winners were, I mean, it would blow your mind what happened, some of this. I mean, the top one this year was from Brazil. And it was this military group, or it was paramilitary group. And they came in, I think, from Paraguay or something, and they were like a hit team. They were going to go rob the Brinks headquarters or something, steal all billions of dollars. And they were waiting for them, and there was a big shootout, and a bunch of people ran away, and a bunch of people were killed. And they collected like 400 DNA samples from those people. And some of them were already in the database. Some they put in the database, and there were no hits, right? But as time goes on, there's more and more hits as these people start committing other crimes. And I think they led to a whole bunch of arrests, and they completely broke open the whole cartel there. And they won the first prize. It was, I think they had 400 DNA samples, 400 samples, and they had 200 DNA profiles generated from that. And they managed to arrest a whole bunch of people, but it's more every day as that database gets bigger. So you can't, you read all of them. It's really incredible what they've done.
Wow.
So in 2017, we found the DNA Doe project for analyzing John and Jane Does, and that was based on the autosomal type stuff. I will explain how that works in a minute. And then, of course, we had our first success case on March the 5th in 2018, and it took us 1 year to the day. We started, I think, March 4th, 17. We wound up March 5th, 18, identifying this guy. First case, it was amazing. It was a identity fraud case. The guy died in 2002, and they found out that it wasn't who they thought he was because he had stolen somebody's identity. And it drove the U.S. Marshal from Northern Ohio crazy. So Margaret and I stepped in. We took that as the first case because he let us do it, and that's it. We identified him. And that's another story for another time. That was really weird. And of course, 2018 was the Golden State Killer. And that's what really made the headlines. So this is how it was in 2017 until then. But about 2019 or 20 or 21, where we are now, everybody is like on board and so excited about the whole thing that the world has changed. And we now have probably the first tool for human identification we've had in the last 30 years. So let me tell you how this basically works. And I don't know how many people out there have already taken one of these tests. But, you're watching TV and you see a commercial that says, "Welcome to me. Buy this DNA test, and it's going to tell you all about whether you're Japanese or whether your grandma lied about it and you're really German." So you whip out your credit card, you buy a test, they send you a box with a little spit cup in it. You spit, you seal it off, and you send it back in the mail to whatever company you ordered it from. A short time later, your results, you get an email saying, "Hey, your results are in." And you surf in to your website and you see something like this. Every company's a little bit different, but basically they'll tell you and your matches. These were like the condensed results of Andy Yeiser, who was my partner who died. And these are his results. It says your list of cousins. Usually it's a lot longer than this. It's probably 1,000 cousins long. The closest ones are at the top. And then they tell you how closely they are related to you. And then they tell you something about the person, something that's on their, they posted some personal stuff, where they were from, or the names in their family. And so you can reach out to these people and say, hey, Anne, you're my third cousin. Where are you from? Who's your mother and father? And can we build trees together? And you really are interested in figuring out how you're related to the people. And I did this, and I found some cousins in San Francisco I didn't know about. So then you own your data. You can download it to your computer. And it's basically just a text file with letters and numbers and stuff that, won't make sense to you. But it does make sense to somebody else. And that's a website called GEDmatch. And you can go and upload that same file to this website. So what is it? What is that? It's not Ancestry. It's not 23andMe. GEDmatch is a third-party website. It's not affiliated. It's independent from Ancestry, 23andMe, all those companies. And it accepts voluntary uploads from all the direct-to-consumer companies. So it's like a watering hole where the genealogists can go. And it's a good place to find DNA cousins from other companies. If I test with Ancestry or 23andMe, I can't see matches from the other companies. They are, that's another continent, another company. You can't. But if I go on GEDmatch, I may be able to see some from other companies, because there may be people from 23andMe that did the same thing I did, and so we can start to see each other. It's meant as a sandbox to play with your DNA, because it's all kind of tools you have for analyzing your DNA that you can't find anywhere else. So it has about, really, this is kind of old, it's about 1.5 million members now. It's growing. Law enforcement uses it for their own cases, which I'll explain in a minute. And you have the ability to opt out if you'd rather not have law enforcement look at your stuff. So that's fine. There's about 340,000 people of that law enforcement can see, because they've chosen it to be that way. When you look at, GEDmatch and you log in, there's a couple of tools that are really interesting that right off the bat we use. And one of them is called One-to-Many. And this is, it's just like when you tune into Ancestry or 23andMe, like I told you a minute ago, GEDmatch offers that same service, where they show you who you match and how close they are, and they give you their email address so you can contact them. There's also admixture, which tells you like the ethnic background of whoever you're, let's say Mr. X. When you look at the pie, this is a very typical pie here, because most of the database are Caucasian Europeans like me that have taken the test. So most of these admixtures are going to show Caucasian European. The big red piece is North Atlantic, which means the UK, the British Isles, Southern Scandinavia, Western France, and the orange is more continental Europe. So this could be mine here. This typically people are 75% Caucasian European, and the other green and brown and yellow are like splashes of various Mediterranean backgrounds that we all have, and that are because people have migrated all over time, and it's not surprising people came to the UK or continental Europe from the Mediterranean. And then the last one is, are your parents related? This is basically how you match yourself, believe it or not. And it sounds kind of funny that you'd need to know that, but it turns out that is very valuable when you're doing cold cases or you're identifying John and Jane Does, because the cold cases, are your parents related? If this is yes, there are places in the United States where people have just settled and never left, and those areas people are very heavily interrelated. for example, the hills of West Virginia, very famously.
Which is about
I
to
can
say
tell
that.
you from the Bell and the Well.
Deliverance, right?
Deliverance, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I can tell you from Bell and the Well, everybody in Virginia is related to everybody else in Virginia. Absolutely. So then there's Southern Louisiana, where I'm from. You didn't know I have an extra hand coming out the back of my shoulders there. And there's the Carolinas, Western Carolinas, and there's also, believe it or not, the Four Corners area is very heavily intermarried out near Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Wyoming, where they all, is that right? Utah, all come together because the Spanish moved in the 1600s. They intermarried with the Native Americans and they never moved out again. So that is also a very heavily intermarried area. And when we see that, it helps us pinpoint the geography of what we're looking for. So here's one to many. Here's Andy's results. And you see, here's what you normally see when you tune into GEDmatch. You'll see a kit number. You'll see how much DNA you share, and the unit is centimorgans. I will explain that in a minute. You will see a name, and you will see an email address. And you can contact these people. So he could contact Katie and say, hey, I think you're my something or other cousin. Yeah, can we compare genealogy to see how that happens? So let me say, what is a centimorgan exactly? It's a unit of DNA. And the higher the number two people share, the more closely you're related. The lower the number, the less you're related. So just take it at face value that the highest number you can share is 3,700 with your parent. Below that, if you share, 10% of that, that's a first cousin and on down. But I'll say that a little more later. This is a typical ethnicity report, like I showed you earlier, where you have the big red piece of the pie is North Atlantic, which is Caucasian European, so is the orange, and then the splashes of Mediterranean that most of us have. So that I've explained that. But how does this work? Let's review. You order, you spit, you mail, you get your results, and you upload to GEDmatch. Now that happens, and that's valid if you're sitting in your living room and you have a computer and you're looking at your own genealogy. But suppose you have DNA from a crime, a homicide, sexual assault, John, Jane Doe, you have DNA from that crime. How do you do that? Do you send the DNA to Ancestry and they work on it, or what exactly happens? Because dead people and missing people don't spit in little cups. Well, it actually doesn't work for forensics at all. So how do we get away with this? First of all, the problem is that the direct-to-consumer companies, all Ancestry, 23andMe, all those people do not accept forensic cases. Now, the exception is family tree DNA, and I'm going to hold back on that. Just treat it as an exception right now. But basically, you have, if you have John and Jane Doe DNA, you have John and Jane Doe, you're all dressed up and basically nowhere to go. Family tree is a recent development, so you can assume that when all this started, family tree was not in the picture. So what do? You're sitting there with DNA and you would like to, adoptees certainly can spit in little cups. You have a John Doe, how do you get him to spit in a little cup? Well, let me explain what happened, how to cheat those companies. There was a genealogist in 2017, and he wanted to test his dad at 23andMe, but his dad died of cancer. So the genealogist went and he got his dad's DNA, he got his dad's tissue sample from the hospital, and he downloaded his own results. He knows what those are. So he went to an independent lab and he said, this is what the data looks like. Can you take my dad's tissue and make one that looks just like this? And they said they could, because the technology to do that is well known in the biomedical industry. He can't get an Ancestry, but there's no reason why somebody else can't do it for him. So he got that data. It looked just like Ancestry and 23andMe, and then he uploaded it to GEDmatch, and it worked. it was like his dad was alive and spit in a little cup. It was fine. So those companies weren't needed anymore to do cases like this. And Margaret and I said, hey, woo, now we know how to do John Doe's. And of course, Barbara Ray Venter was saying, hey, I know how to do the Golden State Killer now. So what happened was when all this started, 2017, it was sort of like all this data was on one side of the fence and the law enforcement was on the other looking over the fence. And they were saying, gee, that's a lot of data. And the genealogists at that time, if you were an adoptee, there was over a 50-50 chance that if you did an ancestry test, you could find your birth parents. I mean, this was really working well. But law enforcement was saying, gee, if only we could put the Golden State Killer's DNA in there, that would work. But unfortunately, we're on the other side of the fence and we can't get in. But when that genealogist sent that tissue sample to 23andMe, it sent the tissue sample to the independent lab, suddenly that opened a possibility for law enforcement that they could do SNPs just like everybody else. They could do ancestry testing like anybody else from the independent lab. And when GEDmatch became obvious and available, that's when the gate in the fence opened, and that's when the revolution really started.
Hey, can I ask a question? You know that the one scientist or whatever who made it so you could trick ancestry, whatever, you make it seem like.
Yeah.
Now, did you make it go? Did it go in that same little vial thing that a consumer would use, like you're spitting into it, and you still send it in normally, or is it the whole?
No. You see, when you spit it in, they take it in the lab and they take the DNA out the spit.
Mm-hmm.
So when the guy sent his dad's sample in, he just sent the tissue in, and the lab took the DNA out the tissue.
Okay, but how did he get it to be able to upload it to one of these bigger companies?
Well, he didn't upload it to any of the companies. He uploaded it to the GEDmatch.
Oh, GEDmatch. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It just so happened GEDmatch has Ancestry, 23andMe, all kind of people on it. It has 1.5 million now. So he had a pool of people to try and find DNA cousins against.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
And he had already uploaded his own DNA, his aunts, his couple of cousins, a whole bunch of his kids and stuff. So the minute the dad went on there, it was perfect. You know, the dad showed up as his dad and the brother of his aunt and stuff like that. So it was just like the dad was alive and spit in a little cup, but he wasn't.
So he made that information available to people like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
After he figured out how to do this, he was like, hey, you know, and then.
Yeah, he just put it on GEDmatch. He didn't really think at that time nobody knew that the police wanted to use it or anything. You know, he just minding his own business doing genealogy when he does that.
How did him doing that get out to a larger group of people? Because it seems like it seems like he just would have been on there to do it for his dad and not really be telling the larger community. Like, or did he actually think of that later and go, hey, maybe these other people, you know?
No, you don't understand. 3 forms of communication: telephone, telegraph, and telegenealogist.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so he, it wasn't a big secret. I mean, back then, think about it. He probably knew other people whose dad had died, and, this worked, and it was kind of interesting. And the lab that did it, the independent lab, was kind of cool about it, and maybe they saw business opportunity.
I see.
So it wasn't that big a deal.
Huh.
It was kind of a breakthrough for us, kind of interesting to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal, but just didn't seem like one when he did it. Because now
right.
It's amazing. It solved all these cases. So there you go.
Yeah, right. So here's some case studies. I thought I'd tell you a couple of ways. Maybe this, if you see it in context, it might make sense. Here's what we do. When you log in to your GEDmatch account, I mean, even if you happen to do it as a genealogist through Ancestry, this is how we make sense of all that data. You look at your top matches and you find out whatever you can about those top matches, because on GEDmatch you're going to have their email address, for example. So you take the screen name and whatever mechanism you have, and you find out who they are, when they were born, and this is all public information, right? We're just good at it. Who they are, where they went, maybe where they live, a couple of things about their parents, and then you start building family trees for each one of those people. So let's say you have 10 and you're building 10 family trees. After a while, when you're building those trees, they're going to start to connect to each other because your 10 people are related to Mr. X. They have to be related to each other somehow, in some form. So as you keep building, in an ideal case, you will have 2 groups form, and the 2 groups will not be related to each other, and these represent the 2 parents, assuming the parents are not related to each other. So when you get those 2 groups, you find a member of one of the group who married a member of the other group, and one of their children is going to be the guy you're looking for. Because that person or one of their siblings, they have that family tree. In other words, those people are related to both groups and all the matches that compose those both groups. So this is like a little cartoon of how this works. You log into your GEDmatch account and you've got all of these DNA cousins. So you come up with the top matches. Let's say you take 6 and you build trees for those 6 individuals, and pretty soon you're going to find that the trees start consolidating into 2 groups that are related to each other. So on the right tree you see little stars where 2 of those 6 connected to each other, and you see on the other side the other 4 connected to each other, and so that you have 2 trees. And then you find dad is a member of one group, mom is a member of the other group, so Mr. X has to be their kid. And if you start to Mr. X and you go back, he's related to mom and dad, he's related to all 6 of those matches in that group, and he's the only one that can say that.
And to pick your top matches, it's the centimorgans, right?
Yeah, centimorgan. And that's obvious because usually whoever, whether it's GEDmatch or one of the companies, they rank them. The top is the first. For example, I got called one day. This girl, she was a product of a sperm donor, and she said, I want to find my birth dad. I was raised as an only child. And I said, well, she knows it's what city and what medical school. She knows a little bit about how old he had to be. And so I said, did you take the ancestry test? Yes, I did. Did you get your results back? No, but they're coming. I said, why don't you do this? Wait till they come in, give me a call, and we'll just sit down and look, and I'll try and give you some wisdom, whatever comes up. So a couple of days later, my phone starts going off at 7 o'clock in the morning because she got her results back, and the top match was her dad. Her dad had taken the test to find out how many kids he had. And so far, she was one of 5 brothers and sisters.
Wow. Because he was a sperm donor. Well, what did you say it was? Yeah, sperm donor. So, man, that must be kind of weird for them if you think about it. You could have 50 kids out there. 100.
Oh, they had one with 600, I think. Some of these super donors, the guys, have the clinic and they give their own, let's say, genetic material to various people. So,
well, I could see, like, if you had Einstein out there and he had some sperm, there might be some people that wanted to, make 600 more.
Right. I think there is. Look, I don't even want to go there, but I think there is an industry, something like that.
It's kind of weird.
But. That the companies, really look for good donors. If you're in medical school, you're already pretty smart. You're going to be educated. You're going to be a doctor, whatever, assuming. So, those are good donors. And so I think they also genetically screened for, illness in their families and stuff. So you don't want shabby material. Let's put it that way.
No.
So anyway, let me give you a couple of case studies that might, put it in context so that you can understand. I just picked out 2, if y'all are really rabid for others. I have a couple more that are very simple, but these are the 2 I picked out for now. This was Jack Fay. He was murdered. That's the one I mentioned a few minutes ago. He was murdered in May of 2013. It was in Warwick, Rhode Island. He was a 66-year-old retired postal worker. He was a Vietnam veteran. He was a very quiet guy. He was divorced, few friends. He had, his ex-wife and him were on good terms, but they didn't really see each other that much. He had a daughter he was on good terms with, didn't see her that much. And every day he jogged through Warwick Central Park, and he went always early in the morning. So one time, May 17th, at about 4:30 in the morning, as he was going through the park, he was attacked, and they found him 36 about a day and a half later in a trash barrel. It was pretty bad. He had been bludgeoned, stabbed. He was not in good shape. He was killed, and it was a really bad crime scene. They had weapons, the killer's DNA. It was obviously kind of a weird attack, not sneaky. It's just somebody went nuts and, attacked this guy. So the thing is, they hired us, and the Warwick Police Department hired us to see if we could find the killer. This is a picture of kind of where he jogged. And, you can see maybe at 4:30 when it's very dark that's not a real safe place to be. Okay, what do? We put it on GEDmatch. We got the independent lab to take the killer's DNA, figure out the, fake ancestry data, whatever. We put it up on GEDmatch, just like I told you. And the first thing we do, we look at the ethnic breakout. And it looked like this. And to the casual observer, you may not see anything different about that. But if you're experienced, there's something unusual about it. And that's because that Caucasian European section is small, comparatively speaking. Usually it's about 75% of the pie. And the Mediterranean is most of it. It's like 70% itself. And so that tells us it's over 50%. So that tells us both of his parents have a Mediterranean background. So you see the two groups are starting to form, right? I told you I'm looking for two groups somewhere. That gives me a very first broad clue at what those two groups are going to look like. Both of them are going to have Mediterranean, and at least one of them is going to be Mediterranean Caucasian. There are some tools that I can't go into, but you can take it at face value that we were able to say that on the Y. Remember I told you Y DNA goes along the male line of the family, where there are tools you can use to get the flavor of the Y DNA, the flavor, and it's called a haplogroup. It's called a population group that the killer is related to along his father's line. And you can see, you don't have to know what J2A1 is. Just look at the map, and this is the flavor of the male DNA of that killer. He's Mediterranean like we thought. And, you don't know where in there he is, but if you have a list of suspects and one of them has the name Murphy, that's probably not him. Let's put it that way. So I did some analysis on the name. I did a little bit of analysis on the name, and I came up with the closest name I could find was Portuguese. So that told us that the father is Mediterranean, but he's probably Portuguese. So we're looking for a Portuguese last name. We did the same thing for the mother and the mitochondrial DNA. You can just accept it that we can do this. And we found the mother is from the Mediterranean too, but the other side of the Mediterranean. She's more like Middle Eastern. You don't have to know what U1A1A is. Don't worry about it. The important thing is look at the map, and the mother is from the Middle East. Turkey, Iran, Pakistan. She can be mixed with other elements, but her mother's line, her mother, exclusive female line is going to be Middle Eastern. So this is good because remember I told you we have Middle Eastern on both sides of we have Mediterranean on both sides of the family. Okay, so find out everything about each match. Here we had 2 matches, and realize this is multi-dimensional, so this is not the only 2. I'm just sort of cutting to the chase, like they say in Hollywood. So you have match 1, his name is Lewis, Lynn Marie's match 2. We have that on our list of DNA cousins of this killer. So we start building the trees out. And we're we're trying to watch for connections between these trees. And it turns out, as we investigate Lewis, we found out he's Portuguese. He's from a Portuguese background, which is good. And, realize we could be off, but if we find something inconsistent, we back up, we try again. The mom, she's from a Syrian background, so that looks really promising to us. We keep building. There's another match who's Caucasian, and her name is Dolores. We build her tree out. There it is. Now, building her tree out is easier because she's American, Caucasian. Her family's been around a long time. And as we build out, right, we're looking for connections. We found that her cousin, Norma, married Lewis. So there you have a Portuguese Caucasian group. And isn't that interesting, right? We have a Portuguese Caucasian group and we have a Syrian group. And we find, as we research this more, that Michael Anthony married Lynn Marie, and they had a son who happens to be Portuguese Syrian. You really can't get too much better than that, can you? This took months, but I'm telling you about it in 5 minutes. So we found a Portuguese, and you can't look at somebody and say, oh boy, you're Portuguese Syrian, I'm going to arrest you. No, you have to go, ask him for a DNA sample, get probable cause to get the guy arrested, etc. There's a legal process. But Mr. Michael Anthony Soares lived on the edge of that park for a long time. He also had some mental illness that he took medication for most of the time, sometimes not. So the police went and talked to him. He voluntarily gave a DNA sample. That sample matched the crime scene DNA, and he was arrested, and now he's awaiting trial.
What was the DNA type? Where did they get it from? Was it?
What they did is they went to this guy, and they said, we think you're the killer. We think.
Well, from the crime scene, how did he leave DNA on the suspect?
I think I can't remember. I think it was victim. DNA from a knife he used. Okay. This is a rule of thumb. It's called Locart's principle, that if you're at a crime scene and you commit a crime, you're gonna leave your DNA at the scene of the crime, and you're gonna take away DNA from the victim. You exchange DNA, or you exchange material at the crime scene.
Right.
If I'm at the crime, I'm gonna leave something of myself there, and I'm gonna take something of my victim with me. In this case, he probably was covered with blood, but he also left his DNA on the knife at the scene. He probably cut himself while he was in a frenzy attacking this guy.
Right.
It's very common for somebody who commits a crime like that to cut himself and therefore leave blood. He may have dripped away from the crime scene, and you can look at that and say that must be the killer's blood and test it.
Yeah, a lot of times if somebody's stabbing somebody over and over, the knife gets wet and then their hand slips down the blade and cuts their fingers.
Yeah, so I don't think that was a problem because there was messy crime scene. There was DNA all over the place. So there you go. And the police told me it was kind of odd because they asked him for his DNA, and he was okay. He went to the police station, and they did his DNA sample and they have this thing called rapid DNA that only takes a few hours. And he's free to leave. So he left. Where did he go? He went to the lobby and sat down in the lobby and waited. And they were watching him on the video camera, in the lobby saying, gee, he could run away and go hide. And they were hurrying, they were hoping this thing was going to hurry up and then by the time it, came through that he matched the crime scene DNA, they just went out, opened the door, they arrested him and brought him in the station. He didn't go anywhere. So here's our beloved Buckskin Girl, and you must know this was one of the first cases I saw with Margaret on the DNA Doe project. And the reason that I, highlight this when I speak is because it's such an easy case to understand. It took us 4 hours to solve it after 37 years. Buckskin Girl was discovered 24th of April, 87. Let me move my little thing over. 1981. She was found outside of Dayton in a town called Troy, Ohio, and she had died by strangulation. I could show you the field where she was found. I have aerial views. It was just a body dump along a country road, rural road. Her feet were clean, so they know that she was killed somewhere else and just dumped there. People had seen her during recent days, but nobody knew who she was. She died by strangulation. She was very well kept. Her teeth were good. She had very good personal hygiene. They thought she may be related to Samuel Little, but it wasn't. She just didn't fit the profile. And she was 20-something years old. She was 5'5", 5'6", 110, 120 pounds. And she got her name from a buckskin jacket that she was wearing when she was killed. In 2016, forensics had advanced. So the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children did a pollen analysis on her and a facial reconstruction, and to make it more lifelike. So the pollen analysis, she had pollen on that buckskin jacket, and it showed that she was way out in the arid parts of the country, like Arizona in the desert. And she was also up into the Allegheny Parkway, because she had not only pollen in her jacket that was like for evergreen trees, she also had soot in her jacket from an industrial area that seemed to be around Pittsburgh. They also did isotope analysis on her bones. When you breathe, you drink, you take a shower, you eat food, you absorb elements from the natural environment. And some of these are radioactive, just natural radioactivity. And by analyzing those elements in your teeth, your bones, your hair, scientists can know where you were at the time you ingested it. For example, if you look at your teeth, here's my adult teeth. Once your enamel in your teeth is formed, it never refurbishes itself. It is always the same. It is always the same for the rest of your life. So if you analyze my teeth, you would find out, you would be able to say what region of the country I was living in when my teeth were formed, because the various radioactive elements would be compared to various areas, and they'd come up with probably southern Louisiana. It goes like this: your teeth are there your whole life once they're formed. That will say where you grew up, where you were living when those teeth were formed. If your femur, your long bone in your leg, it takes about 10 years to regenerate itself, remodel itself. And so analyzing your femur, they can tell you where you've been in the last 10 years. Your rib refurbishes itself, my understanding is every 2 years. So that gives you more to the present. And your hair always grows out, so you can tell where somebody has been from the roots to the tip of their hair. And according to Buckskin Girl and her hair, she had been in around the same place out to California, up to, the Allegheny Parkway. She had been in the Fort Worth area twice in the month before she died. But of course, this doesn't identify her. But if you do come up with a candidate, you can kind of retrofit it to what, these clues of who the person is.
Is that like a little bit like, it's almost like tree ring dating in a way? Because if you can say that she went back to a certain spot, then the hair grows, but it'll keep changing in the hair, right? So wherever you're gone in that short amount of time, right?
Yeah, right.
Interesting.
So, you carry your history along with you, your geographic history. And it's all natural. And, you might people want to check out, King Richard III. I could give another talk on that. King Richard III was the only king of England, and they didn't know where he was buried. So there was a team from Leicester University that decided to find out. And they went to Greyfriars Abbey. The whole story in history was he was killed in the Battle of Bosworth in the 1500s. And he was brought to the Greyfriars Abbey in Leicester and buried. All right. So fast, it was really incredible the way they found him, because they didn't have enough money to, the Abbey is still there. But, it's been remodeled, it's been, redone and changed around in 500 years. And they didn't have enough time or money to go through the whole place and dig up everything. So they got maybe half a dozen spots that they thought might work. So they came one day. They have to, of course, close certain areas temporarily, do their work and get out of there. And one of the places was the parking lot. So they all came up and they were in the parking lot, and the parking lot could be closed for the day, let's say. So they said, why don't we do the parking lot first? Okay, fine. Where do you want to look in the parking lot? Well, there was a reserved parking spot and they had an R on it for reserved. So they said, okay, R stands for Richard. Let's dig right there. And that's where they found him, believe it or not, like that. And the head of the team had gone off thinking it would be weeks. She was at a conference and they called her the next day, say, hey, guess what? He's under the R. And she says, yeah, April Fool, April Fool. No, it's real. So she hurried up back. That was Turi King. And fast forward, it was Richard. And one of the things that they did, he died, I think, in his early 30s. Or is that right? Something like 30 years old. So he had, when you think about that, he had his teeth, his, adult teeth. So that would bring you to maybe when he was 10, 12 years old. Then he had, and that various ages, your teeth come in at different times. Then he had the long bone, which would give the last 10 years, the rib the last 2 years. And I don't think he had any hair left, but basically because he died so young, they could use the isotopes in his body to reconstruct his geographical history, where he had been. And it was interesting that they found too much oxygen for some reason, that he had absorbed through eating and drinking. And they thought, oh, well, maybe it's not him, or maybe there's a mistake, because he lived in London. He was a king, so they know all about people living in London, how much oxygen, carbon, all this stuff they absorb normally and naturally. And the oxygen was off the charts. But they figured out what it was, and it was because when he became king, he started drinking wine instead of water. And the wine, as the grapes are like sucking all the soil, the water and stuff up from the soil into the grapes concentrate the oxygen and it goes into the wine, and that's what he was drinking. So because he was drinking wine instead of water, that oxygen went skyrocketed. And they could also tell it was a man who ate a lot of meat and a lot of fish instead of vegetables and grains, and that was only a very wealthy and unusual person for those times. So just to get back on track, when you do isotope analysis, it's very important. This can really give you great insight into where somebody has been living. Even shower water can, you absorb strontium-90 through the shower water in your hair. It's not like you glow in the dark or anything. It's just a normal process. But that hair will tell people, the chemicals in your hair will tell people where you've been. Nothing could be done about Buckskin, but except to bury her under the name Jane Doe, and that was in 1981. Fast forward. They gave us the case. I met Beth Murray in 2017 at the AAFS conference. She heard me talk about Lori Ruff. She said, maybe I could use this for John and Jane Does. I really have one. She's a nameless case manager, and she's in Ohio, and she said, maybe it would work for Buckskin Girl. So we believe it or not, Beth Murray had a blood sample for a Buckskin Girl. It was 37 years old, and it had been not refrigerated for 37 years, and it had been doped with heparin, which is an anticoagulant. So we said, listen, there's no way in the world that we're going to take this 37-year-old non-refrigerated, chemically doped DNA and make anything out of it. And we were wrong. It made beautiful DNA, beautiful data, genealogy data. So guess what? We made up a dead match, and this, look, it's Caucasian European. You can't miss it. She's got the splashes of Mediterranean. She's got a little bit of African in her, but she's Caucasian European, which is good. Here's Buckskin's matches. Here's the kit number. Here's the amount shared, how many centimorgans. Here's the names of her matches. I've kind of blanked them out, for privacy reasons. And this was the email address. Now, I want to tell you, we don't contact anybody. We work undercover. So we had to find out who these people were independently. Here's Sam. The top match is a woman, and her nickname was Sam. She shares 415.4 centimorgans with our Miss Doe here, Buckskin Girl. But what does that mean? If 3,700 is the max, what is 14 415. What does that mean? Well, we have a calculator we use that can tell us. So you pop 415 into the calculator, and it gives you an estimate saying there's 78% chance that Buckskin Girl and Sam have one of these relationships. And when you look at great aunt and that kind of stuff, these gals are about the same age, roughly. They're about 10 years apart. So they're either the same generation or one generation apart. They can't be great aunt or great niece or anything like that. They have to be a half first cousin or first cousin once removed. What does that mean? Let's do a little review. I hope everybody out there knows what a first cousin is. That means that my grandma and grandpa, had other kids other than my mom or my dad. Let's say my mom has a brother and they have a kid, he has a kid, that's going to be my first cousin. I think everybody probably has that down pat. When that cousin has a kid, that's my first cousin once removed. If that kid had a kid, it'd be my first cousin twice removed. La, 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 la. And if I had a kid, they are on the same level again. They're second cousins. If both of them had kids, they'd be third cousins. If those third cousins both had kids, they'd be fourth cousins. So if you're just regular cousins, it's going to be the same generation. And if you once removed, it's one generation off. The other way is, suppose grandpa was married twice. There are two grannies out there. And on his second marriage, he had a son. That would be my half uncle. And then when they have a kid, their kid would be my half first cousin, because I only share one grandparent, not both of them. And then after that, it would be a first cousin once removed after that. So, and then when I had a kid, those two kids would be half first cousins, so half second cousins. So again, it's a cousin if you're in the same generation, and it's once removed if you're one generation off, and the half means you only share half of that side of the family. Grandpa was married twice. So let's get back on track. Buckskin is either a half first cousin or a first cousin once removed. What does that mean? Well, there's Sam. That's Sam's parents, Sam's grandparents. Half first cousin means, in this case, we say grandpa was married more than once. It could be grandma, but let's say grandpa. And then we, start tracing down. That's Sam's half aunt or half uncle. And then Sam, they have a kid, and that's Sam's first cousin, like I showed you in the previous. And so we figured out who Sam was. We built her tree out. And then we started to see if her grandpa or her grandma, if there were multiple marriages at that level. And we could not find any evidence that grandma or grandpa, any of the two grandmas were married more than once. So we said, let's rule out half first cousin. We can always come back if we need to, but for right now, we have no evidence that this happened. So let's look at first cousin once removed. Here's Sam. Here's parents. Now we're going to go up mom's side because Margaret took mom, I took dad. We traced all mom's side and all dad's side, but I'm going to cut to the chase. Here's mom's parents. And that's Sam's grandparents. And so we're coming down. Here's the aunt and uncle. Here's the first cousin. Remember, we all know first cousins, and the once removed is going to be his kid. John Sosaman, who was Sam's first cousin, had 6 children. We looked at 5 of them, and we found proof of life of 5 on Facebook. They were around. However, there was one we could not find anything on, and that would make her Sam's first cousin once removed. We found Sam's family tree, and Sam had really actually co-opted a lot of information from John Sosaman's family tree. And this is what we found. John's remaining daughter was called Marcia Lenore King Sosaman. She was born in 1958 in Biloxi, Mississippi, and she was missing, assumed dead. So you can't get any better than that telling you that you've probably nailed it. And this took 4 hours. And a lot of that was verifying that we couldn't find proof of life from Marcia Sosaman. A lot of that was just confirming what we just found. This was posted originally by John Sosaman, Marcia's father long ago, and it was like a note in a bottle to by John Solomon, saying, reaching out to the community, saying she's dead, whatever. And unfortunately, when we stumbled on this, he had just died about 3 months earlier. He never lived to know. We immediately contacted the Miami County Sheriff's Office to let them know, that we had made an identification. We never, contact anybody but the agency we work for. And that they notified Buckskin Girl's mother, Bonnie. Bonnie was living in Little Rock. She was in her 80s. She's ailing. She's not well. Buckskin, Marcia, was one of 3 of her children, and the other 2 were already deceased. Marcia was the only one left she hoped to be reunited with. She had not moved, and she had not changed phone numbers for 37 years, waiting for her daughter to come back. Her daughter, Marcia was known to hitchhike a lot. She was taking medication for some mental problems. And when she was on the medication, she was fine. But when she got off of it, she'd just take off and go hitchhiking. And indeed, she had been hitchhiking all the way to California. She had been up in Pittsburgh. She'd even been picked up by, law enforcement occasionally, not for anything wrong, but just to say, can we help you? Can we get you back home? And she was never fingerprinted, never DNA'd. They just brought her home all the time. And one time she left and she never came back. So here's a picture that her mother gave us, 2 pictures. Here's the reconstruction. She looks just really close. And what was interesting, by now when we got through this, we knew all of the family. We had researched all the family. We didn't contact them. We did talk to Buckskin Girl's mother at one point, but we knew from Facebook a lot of the pictures. And Marcia has half brothers and sisters. Her father was married more than once, and she has a half niece and nephew's relative she's never met that she died 30 years before these kids were born. She has a half niece that looks photo identical to her, down to the pigtails, the plaits with the blue rubber bands, and it's really amazing. She never met the aunt. She would not know her aunt wore her hair that way, but she looks photo identical to that composite drawing by Necmec.
And when she was found, she wasn't really that decomposed, so they were able to...
No, she was found within 36 hours.
Right. So that's why they're able to make a really good reconstruction, because, they actually have photos of what, with her face looking like it did. What's hard is when you just have a skull and people try to guess, and I've found that they're not really that accurate very often. So
yeah, well, a lot of times they don't want to be photographically accurate, because somebody will say, oh, that doesn't look like him at all, and it will be him. It's just an estimate,
right? And
they'll take it too literally. So, we went, and here we are. We were at the press conference. Beth Murray typed in, to close the case, and it disappeared from NamUs. She was buried under her own name. The family had a memorial service. Her mother could not attend. Her mother was ill. They had a memorial service, and we chipped in to bring a stone, to put a stone over her grave with her own name. I think that's the most dignified way somebody can be treated, is to allow somebody to die and be buried under their own name.
I agree.
Here is the tomb. This is so beautiful to me. This is Buckskin Girl's grave, Christmas of last year. The tag on it says, from mother to daughter. This is from Bonnie Sosaman. Gave that and put it on her daughter's grave for Christmas.
And that's sort of, I bet you that's what makes you feel the best, is to be able to look at that right there and knowing that you're the one that was able to put the name on the gravestone for everybody else.
That's what makes it count.
Yep.
That's what makes it all worthwhile.
Well, that's what we'd like to do with the Hitchhiker, 1961.
Yep, that's right. That's it.
Wow, that's awesome. Let me switch back to the other scene.
I hope that, I'm open for questions. I hope that made sense, but I'm open for questions.
Okay.
Was that great? You think that was okay?
Oh, that was great, yeah. Now, how do you spell just one thing. How do you spell DNA again? See? Hey, you guys have any questions? I think it was really pretty
You see the
clear.
chat, you know.
I think it gets, the first cousin, second cousin, once removed. If we sat and stared at it for a while, it all, but when you say it really fast, we kind of get what you're doing, but at the same time, you guys, the genealogists, can just go. I mean, when you're looking at stuff, you're kind of like quick through it.
I know, and I get tired of it. Some people say, well, if you're second cousin 3 times removed, then that means that, this other guy has to be half second cousins on the other side. And I'm going, oh, okay, stop, I'm done.
So, man, you guys were able to do it that quick, even using Facebook and all that, getting names.
Yep, 4 hours. We did it pretty much by ourselves, but there were people that popped up in the middle of the night just to see if we were doing all right. And it was kind of funny. We kind of got it, and then it was like, let's see, 3 o'clock in the morning here and like 6 o'clock in the morning in Ohio. So we wanted to call Beth Murray right away, but she's not awake yet. It's 6 o'clock, right? You can imagine 7, she might be in the shower or something like that. So Margaret and I were arguing about, should we call her now or should we just take a nap? We've been up all night. And it took us an hour to get through the argument, so that meant it was 7 o'clock out there and it was okay to call her. So we solved our own problem.
Yeah. Somebody asked, do you think the heparin, Gene asked that, do you think the heparin helped protect the blood? Doesn't seem like
I do. I think in a way it did, because it stopped it from coagulating. So it stopped it from drying up. And I think that may have had an effect. I'm not really up to date on how blood works, but it could have very well helped it and not ruined it like we thought.
I remember one time I had to do all these tests on my heart one time. So they put all these wires in and an IV, and they put heparin in there. And it was weird because every time when the heparin was put in, I could taste soap in my mouth, this soapy taste. It was really weird, right? So then one day when they put a new IV and I couldn't taste the soap, so I told them, and they go, oh shit, and it turned out that the IV wasn't working, so I don't know why it made that taste. I don't know what the hell that was, but it did.
By the way, I like your little DNAs on the corner of your pictures there. That's really cute.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, I did notice that, by the way.
Let's see.
Nobody's asking questions. It's again this silent audience you have that kind of doesn't. I can't see the chat, so.
Well, let me see. Maybe I can.
You can. Can I see it, or you don't want me to see it? Okay, he doesn't want me to see it. I know it.
Well, no, I could. Let me try something different. If I move this, maybe I could put it right in between. Not really sure. Well, I just read what's one of them says. Can you explain the removed part again? Once removed, twice removed.
Does everybody know what their first cousin is?
Yeah, your first cousin, right? Your mom's sister's kid.
Yeah, I mean, don't you have Christmas with your first cousins? I mean, don't they come over and you hate to see them and you get all these weird presents from them and stuff?
But you pretend you like seeing them.
Yeah,
don't forget that part.
They're cousins, right?
Yeah.
They're cousins, so that's your first cousin. So the removed is when they have a kid and you're one generation different. They're one generation younger than you are.
Yeah, and so then the removed is like they had a kid, right? Your mom's kid had a kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Mom's sister had a kid.
Yeah, wouldn't that? But then what's a second cousin compared to isn't that the same thing?
It's okay. Wait, hold on.
See, there you go.
Wait. Yeah. First cousins share grandparents. Does that make it easier?
Let's see. Yes. Yep. Like if my mom has 4 sisters, but they're all the same parents for all 4 of them. So that would all okay.
So if you're a first cousin, you share grandparents with your first cousins.
Right.
Got that? Everybody all right?
Yeah.
You share great-grandparents with second cousins.
I see. So a parent of your grandparents' brothers down that direction, right? Like,
yeah.
Interesting. So a third cousin would be even farther. So you go upwards on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, you're talking. You know, I mean, look, I know for you, it's like, Jesus. Okay. It's like, you know, because it's so simple, right? You've been in your mind.
No,
it's
I just grew up
in.
around it. I knew like down to third cousins. It was pretty crazy, but kind of part of my infant vocabulary. But yeah, so that's the first cousins share grandparents. You think about that. Second cousins are great grandparents. Third cousins are great greats. So my great great grandpa came to New Orleans. He's a Fitzpatrick. He came to New Orleans. He has tons of descendants that I share that his tree, and I'm down here somewhere. He's up here, and all of those are my third cousins.
That actually makes it really simple. I didn't really, you know, so that's awesome. So grandparents, I mean, your parents, and then down, you know, the siblings and then their kids and everything go first cousins. Then it's always removed. Just keep using first on all, if it keeps a direct line of siblings below another first cousin.
Yeah. Right.
But going upwards, it's second cousin then you go to the great grandparents, and then third cousins would be great and four, like that.
Yeah.
Right? Huh,
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Huh.
And no, that's it. And
I'm a pro.
like a first cousin once removed.
Yeah.
That means one of them has and here's where it's moved. That's grandpa and grandma up there. Once removed means that's their great grandparents. Somebody has grandpa and grandma and great grandma and grandpa. They're like catawankers. They're not the same generation. So when you go back up, they're going to connect, and it's going to be grandparent on this side and great grandparent on that side.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's a whole nother tree, you know, the wording for each of the different people. But if you're just starting, I'm going
to. I want to say I can't balance my checkbook, so don't feel like I'm all together with most of life, because I happen to know what this is.
Let me see. I know it's hard. You can't see the chat. But if you opened up, I don't know how you did it last time. But remember, you opened up the video on YouTube? Maybe if you go to your Facebook page, you can go to that link that you put up and then just click on it. And then you
I can? Is that going to ruin like what I have now? Or, I don't want to disconnect and then
I don't think so.
I can't find you anymore.
Susanna, remember your MacGilla Padrig? Yeah, she said, I have 79 first cousins, tab hair, Ain Mika. I don't know what the hell she's saying. She's typing in a language. Hey, what are you typing in there? Is that Gaelic? Something like Tabler, Anamika, Du, Dahoni, Gan. I don't know. Thanks for giving names to the nameless, she said.
Thanks for giving what?
Names to the nameless.
Okay.
She's saying thanks to you.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find you so I can open the chat, but I'm finding like stuff that I'm really paying attention. I'm just trying to see if I can open the chat here.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, just take your time.
Maybe I can. Here's the Facebook.
Yeah, just click on go to my channel. It'll say that there's a live stream. And then when you open it up, make sure that the audio isn't on, but then you can see the chat off to the side, I think.
Okay. I don't have to do join or anything. I just, Fridays.
But isn't Gaelic is Irish, right? Suzanne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn, wait a minute, Fox it. Oh.
Phil needed to put
together. Wait a minute, sorry.
It's okay.
Fox it. Oh.
Phil needed. Sorry. It's okay.
Okay, it's now muted.
Yeah, you mute it, and then I think you can see the chat off to the side.
Yeah. Okay, this is when the family divorces, they are cousins removed. Yes, I like that. Okay, there we are. Everybody's trying to figure out what a cousin removed is, and
I think you figured they know it by now.
Okay, I think they got it. They got it.
I bet one of the hardest things to do would be to an adopted person, as far as solving a crime or something. Like if you put their DNA and you come up with, it'd be weird because let's say they were adopted when they were a baby. There wasn't even any time that they lived with I guess, it just seemed like that'd be tough because you wouldn't be able to, nobody would even know the person, really. I mean,
Yeah. I want to say Jean Fish asked, my mom's first cousin's children they're your second cousins. So you figure it out because you share great grandparents with your mom's first cousin's children. You draw a little picture and you'll see you share your great grandparents and your second cousins.
Someone says, I'm interested in doing, do you have any recommendations on how to get started doing genetic genealogy?
Yeah, you go and find somebody who's adopted and you solve their adoption search. Do that. That will acquaint you with how difficult this can be.
You wouldn't want the 4-hour one right off the bat?
Well, I would love the 4-hour one every day off the bat, but some of them have taken 2 years.
Man. And it's just, those trees must look crazy. Or do you just start over sometimes and go, you know what, we're not on the right place. We're not in the right place, so you just stop it and start over. Do you ever do that?
Yeah, we do all the time. It's a stop and go. You know, we're pretty sharp. Sometimes you'll be building a tree and you'll go, Mom is Smith, Dad is Jones. Okay, that's what the records say. But I look at this guy and I look at his matches and they're all Jewish. Oops, maybe Dad wasn't who we think Dad was.
Yeah.
So we run into adoptees a lot using this database, and Dad and Mom are not Dad and Mom. You know, the official Dad and Mom are not the right ones we have to follow because we're doing DNA.
Well, it must be really tough too on the donors too, the donor versions. Like, let's say you had a crime commit. I mean, the guy that had 600 kids. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, doing genealogy on something like that. I guess it's just it is what it is, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, you put it in there, and if you get the high centimorgans, then you can figure it out and go, oh, well, hell, even though he's adopted, those are his parents, right?
Yeah.
Has the doctor come across... Oh, we've already talked about Chimera last week.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty good.
We did a whole show on Chimera, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of broke that out and did the little mini thing on your pipeline there, which was good. I like chimeras very much.
We should do like something where make a slideshow, but animation, like actually 3D for you to use.
Mm-hmm.
Because I actually can make, like literally have the helix spinning around or maybe have stuff moving around, telling a story, maybe help you out a little bit. Even though that was easy to understand, I don't know if you'd need to make it have more bells and whistles on it. Yeah.
Well, what you want another like a case study, or I didn't quite get that.
Oh, I was just talking about I could, your presentation. I could actually make like my dad's always said, Gray, you should use your animation skills for, science and show people how things work by actually having it 3D on the screen. And then people can see it instead of sort of trying to visualize something in their head. But hey, what about that? What about that other case that we were talking about earlier? Because that guy contacted me from Colorado. It was
Steve, you mean?
Yeah, Steve. I don't know if he wanted me to say his name or.
Yeah, I know who he is. He's a detective that I like very much. He's very smart, and I've spoken to him many times about things.
He seems to like you. Wait, what he said to me. So.
What? Oh, he says he likes me. Okay, good.
Well, no. Well, look how big your head just got on the screen. It just swelled. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, well.
No, it's you.
So.
He was nice though. He seemed like he liked working with you. So the Ewing case, is that right? Alexander Ewing. One, is that something you could?
That was I can. Those were the Bennett murders from I think 1982 in Aurora, Colorado, and that was Steve's case. What happened there was that in 1982, I think it was, there were a total of 4 break-ins in Aurora, Colorado over a 2-week period. There he is, and the guy would break in the house. He would assault people, bludgeon them with a hammer. He would stab people, and then he'd steal a small amount of money and leave. And this happened 4 times over a 2-month I think a 4-week period. And of the people, there was only a woman who survived, who was a flight attendant. She had returned from the dry cleaner, and she had clothes hanging in the back behind the driver's seat, and she didn't see anything what happened. And her husband came home from work, and he found blood in the garage, and he wound up finding her upstairs in bed, totally, moaning and sick. And she was attacked in the garage. The guy didn't come into the house, and they don't know how she got up in bed. She probably got her way up there. She don't remember anything. She survived. And then the last attack was the Bennett family, was mom and dad and two girls. And the younger one, Vanessa, was 4 years old. She was the only one that survived there. I think she was raped, and her face was beat in with a hammer, and she's had numerous surgeries, and she survived, but she doesn't remember anything either. The case went cold. There was just no leads. So they gave it to me to try Y DNA, and they gave me the Y profile. There's Vanessa right after that. The girl on the right is Vanessa.
Okay, down here? Okay, right here. Yeah.
No, up. No, keep going, down. Dive. There we are.
Wow, we're behind.
Right.
Okay.
The girl on the right.
Yeah.
Little girl is Vanessa.
Little girl? Okay.
Yeah. So they gave it to me, and when I did my ballet dance, whatever I do, I came up with the name Ewing. And you couldn't miss it because I matched the DNA to about 75 people by the name of Ewing. And they were exact matches, 1 step off, 2 steps off. He was in like a cluster of like a little star, and he was in the center of this star pattern. So it was this is characteristic of what I see. Whatever I saw was characteristic of a very old Ewing family and very many Ewing descendants, and he was one of them. Now, this is only Y DNA, so all I can do is predict the last name. So Steve, the detective, and I really worked hard. We went through telephone directories, public records, to see if we had any Ewings in the area that would fit the description, and we didn't. So the case went cold. I think it was 2018 maybe, I got, I was talking from another detective that I was working with on a case, and he said, "Congratulations." And I went, "Oh my God, what did I do now?" And he says, "No," he says, they solved the Bennett murders. And I said, "Oh, I didn't know that." He said, "Yeah, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation is going to want to contact you because of this." I said, "Okay." He says, "Don't say anything." I said, "Act surprised when they call." I said, "Sure." And so I said, "What's the guy's name?" It's Ewing.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, no brainer on that. Okay, so I was surprised they did not call. So I waited and waited, and a few weeks later, another detective called on something else, and he says, "Congratulations, I heard you solve the Bennett murder." I said, "You heard it too?" He says, "Don't tell anybody I told you." I said, "You act surprised when they call." Okay, so fast forward, I get a call from Steve in Colorado, and he said, "There's a press conference tomorrow." I said, "Oh." He said, "I might not even be there." I said, "Oh." And so I was somewhere. I was actually at Margaret's house, and there was no way I could get to the press conference in Colorado in time. And Steve told me, "Well, you're on your own. If you want to talk to the press, you have to talk yourself. You can sit in the audience with everybody else." So I was really bummed out. Well, what happened was, now that we know, the guy ran away from Colorado. He went to Phoenix, Arizona, and he broke into somebody else's house. He did the same thing. He bludgeoned him, and he got caught. They arrested him. They put him in prison or jail, and they were transporting him to a more secure location. And they have a rest stop on the highway. He jumped out and ran away. They couldn't find him. He went to Henderson, Nevada, and you'll never guess. He broke into a house, and he hammered an elderly couple either, I don't think they died, but they caught him, and he was tried and put in prison. He's been in prison in Nevada since 1983, and that's why they could never find him.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, that's me. You see, stunningly accurate as serial killer
Right,
slayer
yeah.
was.
Your name.
It had to be. They had to be talking about me in there.
Yeah, because I actually I typed his name in and your name. Not that you'd want to be associated, but I put that in the same search, and this is the article that popped up. So.
Well, I'm glad they used the word stunning. And
so you're right there. Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick suggested Ewing as the perpetrator's last name after she compared Y chromosome data taken from the crime scene to DNA databases.
Yeah.
There you go, GEDmatch. So this is like...
No, GEDmatch wasn't born yet.
Oh,
but GEDmatch was born, but it wasn't being used yet. This was just Y-DNA. And that's just...
Right. Yeah.
So he had been in the prison system since the 1980s, and since CODIS wasn't developed into the 1990s, he just wasn't in the database. And so for some reason, I think he needed medical care, or Nevada is really interested in testing the prison population now, because there have been so many cold hits from older cases on the prison population in Nevada that they have started testing people, and he was either tested as part of that, or he was tested because he needed some medical work. And then that's what the cold hit was. They found out it was him, and guess what? His name was Ewing.
Yeah, it says he's been in prison since 1984.
84, yeah. Well, he may have been arrested in 83, tried, and then 84. That's close enough.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I mean, so what was his MO? Like, what was he doing this for? Just that he liked to do it?
Crazy. He was just crazy. It's his thing.
Was he a serial killer? Did he kill other people other than that group of 4 that we were looking at?
That's really not known. He may have, but those were the 4. Who knows?
Oh, okay, this is the Bennett family.
And it was pretty hard. I asked Steve about it because I said, didn't you look in other states? Didn't you look at the next state? And he said it was really hard in those days because this guy, he hit people with a hammer, and he it stabbed people with a knife. But in those days, how could you connect that to another murder somewhere where somebody may have used a baseball bat? And, maybe the knife wasn't involved. So, and it was in a different state. Yeah. So how could you coordinate all that?
It's just so brutal. It seems like he would have done it before, He's obviously, he did do it multiple times, right? You said that.
Yeah, you think so. You think so.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
And what's really scary is that he was on like the prison dating site. You know how prisoners want to parlay relationships with people, pen pals that are young women, and like to, make a kind of...
Unfortunately, there's women that actually think it's neat to be a girlfriend of a guy like that. I don't know why that exists. Why are there people, all these psychos, all of a sudden, oh yeah, you should see all the fan mail they get. Like, really? Man, if he had 2 minutes with you, he'd be dead. You understand that, right? I mean,
right. And, he's putting up stuff like he likes, to read books, or like walks on the beach and candlelit dinner. I don't know. But, kind of these soft romantic things, and friendly guy, I don't know. I read it. I forgot about it because it was so weird, and he's not like that. And we heard from... I saw a post by his sister or something somewhere on the Facebook, and I think she was happy he was kind of put somewhere safe, where he couldn't hurt people. But that is her brother. You can imagine a lot of mixed feelings.
Oh, yeah. It's weird in doing just what I do on here. Anytime you see a body, there's a woman whose body was thrown out in a ditch, and she's nude, and she's probably raped, whoever did that has done it before, right? There isn't anybody out there that just kind of, obviously there's a first time, right? But most of the time you're not catching it on the first time. It's so they're almost always going to be either a serial rapist, violent person, or a serial killer whenever you see a situation like that. Like pretty much like Buckskin Girl. Like somebody did something to her, right? She didn't just.
Yeah, we're working on that now. We're actually working on her killer right now.
Oh, cool. Is there? You got? Well, you probably can't say it.
No, I really can't talk about what we're doing.
The question I would ask was, "Hey, do you have a DNA profile?" But here's what I would just say: well, we don't know, but you are if people are trying to figure it out, maybe there's a possibility that there's DNA, right?
Oh, there's DNA. I mean, we're working on it. It has to be DNA, and we're using genealogy and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't even know if you could say that.
No, I can say that.
Well, good. That's awesome. Wouldn't that be cool if you had part to do with both the victim's identity and the killer? That'd be freaking amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you got to know the victim, and once you know the victim, you can do something about the killer. You might be able to do the killer.
I think that'd be a first, wouldn't it? No, I don't think.
Because we did Sheep Flat. Jane Doe did that. Sheep Flat. That was the woman, Mary Silvani, killed near Lake Tahoe in the 1980s, and we got her, and we got her killer. Her killer turned out to be a serial killer, and he was dead. He committed suicide, actually.
Huh.
So
that's crazy. Yeah, well, I think at the end of this month we're gonna have $3,000 in the fund. Anyways, that should get a good start to get something going, right?
Yeah, and like I said, coming week for the hitchhiker, I'll get things, better coordinated. There was kind of I want to say, I don't know how many people here are really interested in forensic science per se, but the AAFS, which is the American Academy of Forensic Science, the virtual conference is coming up. You can go to aafs.org, and I love it. I mean, there's a workshop on February the 15th where we talk about forensic genealogy. It's all day. And we talk about the 4 topics are setting up your own, for a DA's office, their own cold case unit. The second one is Verigen technical stuff about their new SNP stuff. Then there's me talking about the tools and how to use GEDmatch. And then the fourth one is Crime Lab, how the crime labs are set up. And it's $100 to go. Now that's normally it's about $100. Normally it's regular. You go somewhere and you meet people and you're at the conference. But this time it's going to be virtual, which means the registration fee is at least half or maybe less than that. And if you're interested, they do have a session on forensic genealogy, and they have case break sessions where you have discussions of cold cases, or you have talks about whatever, forensic odontology, forensic anthropology, fire, arson, forensic arson analysis. I like it because it's such a broad conference with so much stuff in it.
Why don't you send me an email after the show and give me a link to it, and I'll post it in my community section, and I'll put it on my Facebook page.
Yeah, it's on my Facebook page too. I posted the link.
Yeah.
To the, but I can send it again. It's not a problem.
But what I could do is probably post the show again and then the link too. And might be. Yeah,
it's all right. I can do that. And you just browse the program. In other words, if you have look up genealogy. And then, search on genealogy. That will tell you what's going on. In fact, I'm talking about the Sarah Yarborough case on Tuesday night. That's February the 16th. It's a 45-minute talk on how that went down. And then I'm also talking on Thursday night about, it sounds off track here, but they have a session which I absolutely love. It's called the Last Word Society. And you can talk about anything you want. It's like a forensic topic, but it's kind of off-roading a little bit. And I normally give a talk every year because I'm so weird and I'm interested in weird stuff. And I'm talking about one year I talked about the dead horse investigation. On the forensic genealogy page, the picture of the dead horse. I gave a talk on that as if it was a real crime scene. And I nailed it. The whole audience was in stitches, really deadpan, Joe Friday type talk about investigating this murder of this horse. And when I first started, I said to the audience, I said, okay, I'm going to show you a picture of a crime scene. And I need no photographs, please. No photography. Whatever I show you in this room stays in this room. So please, no, put your cell phones away. And I posted the picture. And I said, furthermore, it's a lurid picture because the suspect is actually sitting on the chest of his victim in the picture. And then I showed the picture of the dead horse with the guy in the top hat sitting on it. So it was a, people kind of were like, it was a parody of everybody in the room because they've been to these sessions, where you have the victim all, chewed up and bloody and naked and laying in a ditch. And I just did it the same way. It was wonderful. This year, I'm going to be talking about old hospital records, where you can find them. That's not like 50. Some of them are as late as 1940 maybe, but anywhere, insane asylum records, from Fiji, stuff like that. And I'm talking about the New Orleans hospital records from the 1850s, and it sounds it's not really dry. It's very interesting what you can suck from all that data. Anyway, I'm giving that talk on Thursday night.
Oh, well, you reminded me when you were talking about that. I just randomly found this one. It wasn't a cold case, but it was Walter R. Hibbert from 1939. It was weird because I just found it in the newspapers.com, and right next to it is pictures of Hitler doing. It was just weird crap, and you're reading it, and the guy, his wife was sitting on a bed, and she asked. They just got married, like a week before, and she asked for a glass of water. He goes over, instead of bringing her water, stabs her in the heart, then brings her over to the bathtub and starts cutting her up into bits. And then he goes, I just got too tired of it. So then he tried to escape to Canada. This is up in like northern part of the United States. Tries to escape to Canada. Then he goes, forget it. Then he turned himself in. Then he was put into an insane asylum for a little bit to be reviewed. And I got those documents. Somebody on the internet goes, hey, Gray, I went and did research, and they got me all of the insane asylum documents. And they go through all of his discussions with the doctor and how he felt and everything. And then I guess he was deemed okay to go to trial. So he went to trial, apparently. Served was 25 years in prison. And then he got out. And you know what's crazy? He died like in 2008. I mean, this guy who just absolutely wiped out his wife, and she was pregnant too, by the way.
Yeah.
He had like all these other lives, and then he got to live all the way to 2008 and that's in 1939 when he did that. So he was probably, I don't even know how old, 90 something. Yeah, I don't know. You made me think of that by having the records out of the insane asylum.
Yeah.
It was a long,
But. These hospital records are just amazing. And I just found all kinds of things. One of them, they have at the Family History Library, familysearch.org, they're posting and digitizing a lot of them. And there's like hospital records from the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. And my favorite is the hospital records of St. Bartholomew Teaching Hospital in London. And there are about 40 years of records of the people that they used to dissect at the hospital for the teaching. So you can see the name of the person, where they died, when they died. Most of them were from the workhouse. And then they took the bodies from the workhouse and dissected them for the students, and then they buried them later.
Jeez. Crazy. Let's see, what was it? In the one I was just telling you, I forgot to mention when he was a kid, he beat his sister with a claw hammer. So that matches the last story. I mean, this guy's a psycho. How did he come he got to get out of prison and then live another 50-something years like everybody else? I hate that crap.
Maybe he was wealthy and they paid off.
Yeah. Let's see.
Paid him off or something.
Yeah, he remarried a couple times, that guy. Yeah, has all the, probably, it'd be interesting to do his genealogy to see all of his family members, if any of them knew what he had done, Yeah.
Let's
see. What do we got? Anybody have any more questions? Somebody said thank you. Thank you for joining us and sharing info on the great work you do. You're amazing. Linda Howell.
Okay, thank you, Linda, for that. I had a bad day, so I'm really glad to hear that.
Oh, yeah, you did? Well, at least you had a little bit of fun on here, right?
Yeah, I know I did. It was good. Always sitting in, chatting with friends and kind of very casual. I'm just looking through some of these. Oh, you could listen to me for hours. Thank you.
No, really, you're
It
very...
won't inflict you, though.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's not like people go, oh, dude. It's always some riveting...
About being a freak.
Are there any advancements in the field of DNA that will make your job easier? I think it always gets a little easier and easier, right?
Yeah, it's always... there's all, ability to extract lower amounts of DNA from really bad remains, ancient DNA. I'm very interested in that. Ancient DNA and, dealing with degraded DNA. DNA from hair is very interesting. I love the cases like the Somerton man from Australia, the Plaza woman. I'm very involved in the Somerton man right now. The Plaza woman is the woman found in the Plaza Hotel in Oslo. That one's really interesting. They won't let the DNA out the country, so I can't do that one right now. But I love those kind of, top of the weird.
Somebody asked why is it hard to estimate age? I don't know if DNA has an age component to it, does it?
No.
Yeah.
They're trying, though. They really are trying.
Yeah.
Because that will tell you the age of the remains. Not the remains, but the person who died. They're trying to do that.
So do you think there's like a degradation of your own DNA that's actually something that's measurable?
Yeah, there is. And it's, I'm not really up on it, but it's a chemical, like, once you die, actually, this was like for the assailant, what is it? The unknown assailant, perpetrator. There's a lot of research on trying to find out how old he is, because now that's different from how old the remains are and how long they have been degrading. That's one question. But the other one is, as you age, your DNA ages with you, sort of, a little bit. And, that's why people get old and die, because that's why the lady, what's her name, Elizabeth, she's up at Stanford. She won the Nobel Prize to find out that the edges of the DNA are called telomeres. And as you age, the telomeres gets shorter. It's like the edge of a shoelace, where, how the end of a shoelace, you have that plastic little wrap around it. Well, as that your DNA somehow is like that, and as you age, it kind of ravels a little bit, and you get shorter and shorter. So they're doing some research, I think, on that, trying to look at that and see how old the person was.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, Half-Life type of, not quite the same thing, but
how fast does it unravel?
Yeah, so up here, somebody asked one up above, I got my little look at 1XE said, do you think advances in epigenetics will lead to advances in being able to identify unknown suspects through epigenetic markers when relatives or comparison DNA are unknown? I'm not sure what that means.
Well, you always have to compare DNA to something else. DNA on its own, if you got my DNA, it would be meaningless unless you compare it. And that's a whole nother discussion why you have to do that, because why do you always have to compare DNA to something? That had to go back to a time when there was only one DNA out there. Yeah. And then we all descend from that one DNA.
And somebody else up here talked about, I've mentioned the same thing before, but being criminals in the same family, do you think that's genetic? That sometimes there's a genetic component for killers being in the same family or relatives of each other?
Yeah, there is. In fact, there's the Shermantine family, where there's guys on death row right now in California. And I was just talking to somebody before we got on the call here about that case. There may be, he's on death row for I don't know how many cases, but his father and uncles and brother, they also think they were serial killers as well. So there is some genetic component, but that doesn't mean that you'll turn out to be that way, because it could be some of that family are not serial killers.
Yeah, and there's also people out there that probably have they even think it and have the propensity to do it. They just choose not to, because it is a choice, right? I mean, so like sociopath, sociopath choose, right? They're choosing to do what they're gonna, right? Or
I'm not really sure, I'm not the expert on that.
Yeah.
I would say I do things and I don't even know I'm doing it, so I don't choose. And even if I try not to, I may do it anyway. I don't know.
But I think if you're stabbing somebody to death, you probably were taught at some point that that's not something you're supposed to be doing. So I would think that that's definitely, I guess, why some of these criminals, like, Jodi Arias, for example, she had what the hell was that called? Borderline personality disorder. Yeah. Well, she knew what right from wrong was. I mean, everybody knew that she knew that, but she decided to do what she did anyways.
Yeah.
So.
I don't really know, a lot about that, but.
Oh, she cut the guy's almost cut his head off after shooting him while he was in the shower, sitting down. He shot her. She shot him in the head. She's just psycho.
Well, I think that people do go kind of crazy, and it's really funny. We don't understand that. Sometimes you can't get out of your head. In other words, if you're wired funny, well, look, it's easy. Suppose you have a cousin and you know somebody that just can't do math. They're just not wired that way. I've taught math to all kinds of people, from third graders to graduate quantum mechanics. So I have this broad experience, and there are some people who just can't do math. Why is that? So you can't force yourself to do something. And so you have to look at, go on the other side. People are really crazy, let's say. So is that like you just can't do it right? You've got to be a murderer.
Well, there's people, I know what the kind you're talking about. There are those people out there that are just literally are crazy people. They're like, they're just out of it, and they're just just a wacko killer.
Yeah.
They were a creature that should have never been let out into society. Yeah. But then there's people like Ted Bundy, like he knows he knew exactly what he was doing, and he didn't have to do it. He just had an urge that he wanted to satisfy, right?
Yeah.
But and he did it instead of not doing it. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know exactly. Yeah, there definitely are people that probably can't really control themselves because they're just absolutely crazy people. Yeah.
Right. That's correct. And so who knows what you can and can't control?
Yeah.
I use my right hand all the time. I'm right-handed. Is that a choice, or is that wired?
Yeah, I mean, if you got a killer that's that instinctual, then man, that's a scary person. That literally, it's just like me using my right hand. I just started killing today. I mean, that would be a spooky type.
Yeah, that would be a little bit over the top, but yeah.
Do you and your colleagues have your research save your research in some way in case a new case intersects with one? That's pretty interesting, because that would make sense with the relatives. Like it intersects with something you've already done. So you've already done this whole tree and everything, and you have this massive tree. Maybe there's another case that you could just plug it in over here, and we're already moving along.
No, not really. We have noticed some cases that intersect, like distant relatives or something. And recently we were working on a case, and one of the matches had the email address, I think, of a certain district attorney's office. So we followed that up, and it was related to another case, and maybe these two killers are cousins or something. We're still trying to figure that out.
What might be interesting, though, is if all of you guys that do what you do, that when you're done, you upload in a digital format the tree, boom, and it gets saved on a database. And then you load that up every time there's a new, so there'd be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these, thousands of them. And then every time you do a new case, you that's part of, after you've loaded your DNA in, it checks to see if there's any of those already existing trees out there, and then brings it in, right?
Yeah, I think the chances are very slim of that happening at the moment. But as we go along, it would not, be surprising if some of the trees connect. And also you have to consider that there are other groups working on all kind of trees, so that we won't have access to them unless we notice, there's an email address that leads back to a DA or a detective agency or a police or law enforcement agency. We wouldn't know that unless it was ours.
Let's see. Well, Sophia said, "You're amazing. Thanks to both of you. I love these shows. I'm watching and admiring you from Portugal." Hey,
I saw that.
You just
from
were talking
Portugal.
about Portugal, or Portuguese.
Yeah,
anyway.
I've heard all kind of good things about Portugal. I've never been able to go there yet, but I'd like to.
Let's see. Anything else up here?
I'm sort of a walking encyclopedia of violent crime, which is kind of, scary. But I had to stop watching Forensic Files at night because I thought it would turn into
But you sleep well, right? Like you don't go, like when you go to bed, you don't keep thinking about it all night long, right? Unless you're maybe genealogy, when you're really into the puzzle part of it, you might be going, oh wait, I could try this tomorrow or something, maybe.
Yeah, right.
But I think if you're going to be into the true crime world, I have this conversation all the time. You've got to be some. I didn't mean to. Man, you just yawned right. She just yawned right in my face.
I'm yawning at my own video.
Yawned right in my face. No, but I always tell people, if you go off the air, like I read on another channel, somebody goes, God, I'm crying right now listening to this. I get chills at night, and for 4 days I haven't been able to sleep because of this case. And I'm like, man, you are in the wrong field. You need to pick a whole different genre at that point.
Yeah.
Because it's literally, if it's ruining your life, man, forget it. Right?
Yeah. What's the guy? I just saw an interview with, is it Robert Ressler, who helped found the psychological unit at the FBI? And he deals with the worst of the worst. I think this was maybe part of a video on the BTK killer. I'm not really sure. And I at the end he says, when I go home, I just go home. I leave it behind. I don't think about these things, because he deals with the worst of humanity and the real, people, weirdos, whatever. And he has to let it go so he can have a normal life. I know that, what's his name? John Douglas, who worked with him, who wrote Mindhunter and who is the founder. I know that, part of that story is how he let it get to him and he had to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think about it otherwise.
Sarah Beth Colagras said, thank you for spending time with us despite your bad day. Such a treat.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had a bad day. Well, you can let me know if you don't, if you had a bad day. I can always. I do shows every single night, so it's easy for me to switch around or something.
Oh, do you? Okay, see, I'm off track. I didn't know you were on every night.
Pretty much, yeah. I cover tons and tons, hundreds and hundreds of cold cases from all over. I mean, I send them to you, the ones that I get a DNA sample and it's not solved, and they say, oh, we've got DNA. That's the one I just sent you the other day. That one in that apartment complex with the lady at the bathtub.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Like I said, I had a little bit of a busy spell, but I mean to call on that. That was Jackson. Was it Linda Jackson or?
Yeah, it was Linda something. I can't remember her last.
Yeah, I have my note. I have it in a note. So
it was in Indiana.
She was over the bathtub, and we were talking. It was probably her blind date that nobody knew over. I have it written down.
I think it definitely. It just seemed really obvious because the blind date. She had told a friend, he tried to attack me, so they weren't dating, and then he called her again to come over to quote apologize, and then, but nobody knew his name, and then she's dead. So that's, the odds of it not being that person are pretty low.
Yeah, I got to go over my notes, but I meant to call, and I have a list of people cases I'm going to call on to see, if you have the grant or, tell them about you guys and stuff like that. Yeah. Kind of follow up and see what's going on.
Yeah, you can always just tell them, hey, we can probably fund most of it,
You know what? I did. Her name's Linda McDaniel, and I did call. I called the detective on it, and I told him, that there was a grant available to solve the case if he wanted it, and I should follow up, but he didn't answer me. So, if I had an email address, if you can find it, I'll follow up by email. I don't like to just keep calling.
Okay, yeah. Is that the number that I gave you? Maybe I can find it.
I don't want to say online who it was, but
okay.
the name of the detective.
Yeah. Okay, I'll send I'll try to find his email for you. But
it'd be good, because that way it's easier to follow up on email. I left mine. He could always write me,
Yeah. So, hey, tell you what, I appreciate you coming on. You know what you should do is go watch 90 Day Fiancé for a little bit.
Yeah, that's I'll up to date with that now. I hate to rewatch the train wrecks. Watching the first time is, these people must be paid like crazy to do this kind of stuff, and they have a cameraman following them all over the place. That's enough to.
Do you think it's real? Like they or what's going on there? It just seems so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess the people have their own video diaries they have to keep, but there's a cameraman with them all the time, and I just, I mean, not when they go in the bathroom or anything, but, they have fights and the cameraman's standing right there watching the fight.
Right.
And,
I wonder if they'd step in if it got really violent, the cameraman.
I don't know, the cameraman might be killed, maybe that's in the contract that.
Hey, I'm going to do a poll right now really quick. Is there anybody in here that would have ever thought she watched that show even once? Put a 1. Type a 1 in if you sat around going, you know what? I bet Colleen watches 90 Day Fiancé. Put a 1 in there. Come on, go ahead.
No, 2000. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Emily. Nope.
Stacy's goofing her. Well, she probably knew. You said told that. Well, you said it on another show.
See, look, Patricia watches it too. Yeah, I mean,
well, my wife.
No, and what my other favorite, too bad, Dance Moms. They went off the air, but I kind of was enjoying that. Dance Moms, and I actually watch reruns sometimes because I don't like the moms, fighting, but I do like the dancing at the end. I love the dancing.
Have you watched? Do you watch Netflix at all?
Yeah.
Have you watched? Have you watched Cobra Kai? The Karate Kid
I've seen it, but I haven't watched it.
You should. It's crazy. I mean, it's from all the '80s stuff. Brings back with the music and everything.
Yeah.
So.
I want to recommend something I really like. There's a couple of programs. Can I say a couple of things I've seen that I really like? One of them is not crime related, but it's the psychology stuff we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Alive Inside, and it's like half an hour. It's not long, hour video done by a close friend of of mine. And it's about a man who volunteered for a care facility for the elderly. And he, people just sit there like that. And he
like
brought
One Flew
an
Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? Like the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
And so he brought an iPod in, and he popped this on, one of his friends. And he noticed a very big change in the engagement this person had. And then he had an idea. So he started giving up iPods, and these people that were basically hadn't spoken in a couple of years came to life, and they started, the music kind of accessed the part in their brain. It's the last part that Alzheimer's gets to. And they actually sat up and they started talking, and they could answer questions, and they were moving and smiling and being happy.
Oh, that's crazy.
And it's called Alive Inside. And so they talk about how, people go to nursing homes, how that all developed. But then he had a video of this 92-year-old guy who was really nice. Everybody liked him, but he never said anything for years. And they did it with the swing music of the 40s because he was in his 90s. And he just sort of sat up and he started answering questions about what he liked to do and his hobbies and stuff when he was young. And this video went viral. And when that happened on the internet, the guy had been trying to go to nursing homes and get them to buy iPods and do this. And they kept saying, that's not in our medical budget. That's not in our equipment budget. but he started like the GoFundMe or something. And when the video went viral, he's been able to put him in 600 nursing homes. And you see the miracle that music creates. Wow. And it's amazing. It goes into all kinds of things about moods and music.
It reminded me of that. You ever seen that movie Awakenings?
It was similar.
Similar, but not a drug. It was just literally
no,
music.
It was music.
Yeah.
And then okay, so everybody watch Alive Inside. It won Sundance, and it's very short. I recommend it. I want everybody to watch that movie. And the other one I'm going to recommend is called Long Shot. And maybe you guys have seen that. It's about the Hispanic guy in LA that was arrested for murdering some other gang guy. And all the witnesses said, gave the composite. And it turned out the composite looked like this guy. But his alibi, he said, oh, I can't do it because I was at the ball game with my daughter. We went to the Angels game in Angel Stadium. And they said, well, you're going to have to prove that. And it's really amazing. It was unbelievable. Because, you film stuff at Angel Stadium, right? I mean, there's filming the game. And they saw him. They could see him. One of the film, he was across the stadium, and you look at somebody that looks like him, but you can't really see it's him. And the prosecutor was this young woman who never lost a death penalty case. And she was out to get him just because she didn't want to lose this one. And it's amazing what happened, how he proved that was really, he was really sitting in that seat.
What's the name of that one? Is this a true story too?
Long Shot.
Long Shot?
It's about a half an hour long, and it's unbelievable.
Where do you watch these things? Both of them?
Netflix.
It's only a half hour little short thing called
Long Shot is a half an hour.
Wow, that's weird. So it's a short movie, but it's called Long Shot. Okay.
Well, it's not like a whole movie. It's a video of like half an hour, 45 minutes.
Wow. And so is that other one that you just mentioned?
It's called Alive Inside.
Yeah, so that's also on Netflix? Okay.
Yeah. Let me see. All right. Okay, I was seeing if somebody had seen it. Oh, I remember his story. Okay, somebody remembers. All right. Has anybody seen Alive Inside?
Well, I want to watch it now. Don't give me the answers, everybody.
I'm not gonna. I just want to see if anybody watched it. I mean, it's so rich. It's not a really big, long movie. It's like an hour. It won Sundance and everything.
What's your? How about? Okay. I was gonna ask. How about you have a favorite action movie? I want to see if you watch like Aliens or Predator. You don't ever watch those? Oh, okay.
No, I watched The Matrix. I like that, but that's kind of like a long time ago.
What do you think of 12 Monkeys?
I have no idea what it is.
Oh, that's the one about a pandemic or like a virus that killed off the whole planet, except there was people that lived underground, and then they sent them back in time to stop it from happening the moment the virus got out.
Oh.
It's kind of, apropos for the day.
I don't know. No, I didn't see. I think I heard about it, but maybe I need to watch it. I like those kind of things.
Bruce Willis is in. Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. The whole movie.
Monkeys.
Yeah.
The Jinx. Oh, the Jinx. Oh my God, have I seen it? I've watched it more than once. The Jinx. Robert Durst, one of my favorite serial killers.
I'm gonna have to. How do you spell that?
If you have not seen the Jinx, you have to watch the Jinx. It was a Long Shot and Alive Inside are the two that I've been talking about. Now put the Jinx on the list because that has got to be one of my all-time favorites. He's one of my favorite serial killers.
It's like Jinx, like that? Or?
Yeah, that's Robert Durst. And what is it? Alex Jarecki did it, was the director, and I mean, he got lucky, but he did a lot of really hard work on that.
That's on Netflix also?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure. I think, HBO. The Jinx is on HBO, but you can get it for a couple of dollars.
Thanks, Claudia Neubauer.
Well, thanks, Claudia. It's enough to rent that for whatever. But
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of. I have like HBO. I have them all.
yeah, the Jinxes. I've watched that more than once because I can't believe. It's just I can't believe that Robert Durst. He's in prison now. Oh yeah, the bathroom recording was neat, right?
Well, Robert Durst is the one that wasn't Janine Shapiro in that, dealing with him.
Who's Janine Shapiro?
Well, she's on Fox News now, but she's like the. She was an attorney or prosecutor, I think. I don't know if I'm thinking of the right guy. Isn't he the guy that's whispering on sometimes being recorded?
Who's that? Robert Durst?
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of got cornered. You have to see how they cornered him. And he's just the story, I guess, is so unusual. Somebody asked why he's my favorite. It's because there's so many twists and turns to that story. You know, he ran away. He was a suspect in a case of this guy being killed in Galveston, and they traced it to the house, and they traced it to him, so he figures out police figure out that he lives in the house. Actually, the room in the house, the black guy they found all chopped up in the water, lived in this address in this house. So they went. It was a quadruplex. So they asked the landlord who else lives in the house, and they say, oh, a top story, this couple. Bottom story across the hallway is this woman who isn't there a lot. She paid for a year in advance. She travels a lot, and she's mute. She doesn't talk. So they said, okay. And in looking through the trash and the mail, they find out the name Robert Durst on the mail. And it turns out he's been dressing up as a woman for a year to come pay the rent, acting like and they try and figure out, well, why are you doing this? I mean, why dress up as a woman? Why not just rent the apartment? And, so you go on with that. Anyway, they bring him to, there's a hearing to see if he's going to be arrested or if he's associated with this crime, and he doesn't show up for the hearing. He just leaves. Nobody can find him. They finally found him in New Jersey. The reason they found him is he went into a Walmart and he stole a $5 sandwich. They shoplifted, and he walked out, and the video cameras caught him, and they stopped him, and they kind of were going to arrest him, and they found like $3,500 in his car with all the tools for murdering somebody.
So, but why'd you steal the sandwich?
Yeah, why'd you steal the sandwich? And it's like so bizarre, all these twists and turns. And
he seems kind of crazy though, actually. I mean, just listening to him talk and just everything.
Yeah, but it's how they caught him. I won't tell you how they caught him, but it's so strange. And the way Jarecki kind of cornered him so he didn't have anywhere to go, all dressed up and nowhere to go.
Wally Gator said, Colleen and Gray are awesome with the $25. And Cindy Leon said, just joined in, so happy to see a Gray Colleen Freak family reunion. And then Emily said, thank you, Dr. Fitzpatrick. You're a great role model for young women going into science, I'm sure. See,
well,
I have such great people.
It's not easy.
Well,
but thank you. It makes it worthwhile when I hear words like that.
You make it seem easy. That's because you're a rocket scientist.
It was those acting lessons I took long ago. I really have to look up my teacher and thank her.
Is that how you're able to smile? Because you were in a bad mood, but you're pretending to have a good time? Is that it?
No,
wow.
This is real. No, this is real.
Okay. I don't see any new questions, but yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you on all night. I think you've been on for 2 hours and 20 minutes now. It always goes by quick.
You get me talking, you can't shut me up. But I hope I want to know from the chat and the people, was that a good enough talk? You kind of caught something from that? It was okay, and you kind of caught what went on. And
yeah. Well, if you missed it at the beginning of the show, she goes through a sort of how the process works for genealogy. and went through the whole thing, and then did a couple sample cases, and it was really interesting. Even if you didn't catch understand every single bit of it, you kind of get the gist of how it works.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was aiming for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look at all those good comments. You're the best teacher. Absolutely fascinating. It was amazing. Loved it. It was great.
Thank you for that.
See?
Thank you. I need to hear that today.
And see, the money that's coming in here, I use a big portion of that that's how we build up the funds. If I didn't do a show every night, I couldn't come close to doing anywhere near as much that I could. I think I'm going to try to do 15,000 or something this year to put into that fund. Now, if we don't use it all, then it's still going to be sitting there ready to go. But I want to put it in. I want to be able to send it somewhere, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'll get some of that smoothed out this week. I did. I know you do PayPal. Is that how you want to transfer the funds, or something that?
However they can do it, I'll do it. That whatever works, the best for them. But I want it to be. I want to be able to send it there, and absolutely know for sure there isn't going to be somebody using it that's not going towards your project. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll make sure in that. I have some real good good honest people working there. I know them all pretty well, so I won't run interference, and I think they understand that. So
excellent.
Well, good. And I really appreciate everybody's donations. Hopefully we can bring that young boy home after so long. His brothers and sisters are probably still alive. He was like 1961, so maybe born 1950. Wait, 61.
Probably 70 something.
He'd be like born in the late 40s. So his brothers and sisters are still around. His mom and dad probably gone, but.
I wonder, how did they know exactly his age? Did he just tell that person?
Yes, you look at the forensic anthropology. You look at how your skull knits. You look at the bones. Especially the ends of the bones. The middle is normally pretty solid.
What did they think he was, like 18 or something? I can't remember
Yeah, something.
He looked kind of like James Dean in that one picture,
Yeah, he looks. They have artist reconstructions and stuff.
Well, the artist reconstructions make him look way worse than he looks, even in the image of him when he's not alive. They actually have a picture in the paper, and he looks like James Dean is what I'm saying. And then they get this drawing of him, and all of a sudden it doesn't have that look. So maybe that.
Well, you just try and get somewhere, close enough, and somebody will recognize. You don't want it to be too photo identical.
But why not just, I've always said, why not just use the actual picture of him when he was dead? I mean, he died and
just out of respect for the dead.
Yeah, it seems like though you could take that and just change it up a little bit. Like maybe after he's already gone to and been, bring him to like a funeral home. You know how they make you up a little bit? I don't know. It just seems like right there you'd have an actual picture of the guy, what he looked like. But I guess,
they have done that, but I think it's just out of respect for the dead. And then if you see somebody's family member sees him and he's dead, they may be so hurt, by that it's having to go and identify somebody at the morgue as your relative is probably not the easiest thing you can do.
Yeah, it's kind of this weird double, you're not really sure which direction, because you actually have an absolute, for example, in the Buckskin Girl, I saw some of the scenes of her picture after she wasn't alive, after she was dead, and it looked, looked like, almost like it did how she looked when they finally got a picture of her.
Yeah, that's right. And I've seen those too. I've seen a lot of morgue photographs. I've been to exhumations. It's not that bad. It really isn't. Usually the exhumations I've been to are just skeletal remains. They're old, and I've been, I think that I was at the Forensic Science Institute in Houston last year, or the year before. No, it was last year, and I we were walking around, got to the morgue, and I didn't want to go in. They just opened the door. We looked in, and there was these tables that were long ways to my point of view, and they were, 6 or half a dozen across the room. and they had a technician working on a body on each table. So they had like the skull cap off of one, and they were doing something, and it was like, I'm sorry, I can't go in. Close the door and left.
Wow. You know that the buckskin, that final reconstruction looked great, but there was other ones prior that weren't good at all. You ever seen the other ones? They didn't look like that at all. That last one was great, though.
Yeah, right. It's good. Yeah, and that's why they redid it. And they did orange socks as well, because they, in modern technology, modern understanding, modern outreach, you want to be more lifelike.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else up there, everybody?
I'm kind of watching, here. Thank you guys for all the good thoughts and everything. Kind of, it's tough work. Somebody's got to do it, though.
Carolina T said, "Please take care of yourself."
I'm part of a writing group on Saturday mornings, and a lot of them are mystery writers. A lot of them are, true crime writers, and I always talk about being a little girl and walking home and the flowers and the clouds and my grandmother sitting talking about. And, somehow I just don't write the crime. I do have, they say, you should write a book, and all about the flowers and the little girls and whatever I write, memories of growing up. And they say, you should write a book. And I say, if I write the book, it's not going to be the one that you want. You want me to write about the flowers.
Look at your little namesake or whatever, Susanna MacGillapadrick. I found some human bones in Lincoln I wasn't really looking for, and from a pelvis, arm bone, a femur, and part of the skull, and from that they deduced its age, sex, and what its occupation.
That's possible. Yeah, that's possible. And I meant to write, Susanna, I meant to write you because I had a meeting with the Fitzpatrick clan, and I asked, of course, the McGillifardrick name is the original version of the name. And so I asked people if they, in the clan, if they were familiar with any McGillifardricks. They came up with a few in Western Ireland mostly. They looked quickly in the phone book, and there were a few. So I meant to introduce you. I'll write you. I meant to introduce you to the rest of it in case you wanted to take a DNA test for the Fitzpatrick study, or you wanted to join the clan with us.
Let me ask you something. So is that how you pronounce it? Like a PH, like an F sound, like phone?
Yeah, McGillifardrick it is.
So so it's McGillifardrick.
Yeah, Fardrick is Patrick.
Come on, Susanna. You didn't tell. All these times I've been saying, Susanna MacGillapadrick, and you went, yeah, he said it perfectly. And I'm like,
let me say this. No, she's right. It could be McGillifardrick because the Irish can't pronounce H's. They have H, or they have, you say, can you, how do you spell McGillicuddy? MC, there they go. You say, how do you spell Smith or Booth? How do you spell Booth? What? B-O what? B-O-O-T. Booth.
Yeah, wow.
So it's McGillifardrick, I think, would be right. I think that's probably close enough.
Well, I know there's a guy named Padraig Harrington that plays golf, and I think it's spelled similar.
Okay, reverted to the Irish name. I was wondering about that.
We were vocally challenged with the H.
Yeah, the H's, the boot. Mr. Boot, John Wilkes Boot.
I took a linguistics class in college. I think everybody should take that. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I need to do that one day.
You actually can spell just by knowing some of the rules that they have in there.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody said smash the like button, but yeah, wow. Well, I don't know. You like to do it maybe every couple of weeks. We can do one of these if you like.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. I can't do it or let's touch base how the week goes. I can't do it every week, I think, but I think it's kind of fun and just to talk to friends. And I'm here, right? I have a tenant that lives in my house, and so it's good to, he's in the room and we talk. I know his family, but he's not here right now. He went to go visit some family members. So normally, and especially during the day, I'm a lot by myself. So it's good to get on the on the calls and like this, and kind of just chat and see who's out there, see what's going on.
Do you have a pet?
Not right now, except for the tenant. You know, I used to
okay.
have tortoises and I used to have cats, but
I thought I heard
might
a
get
pet a while ago, like growling or something. Maybe that was my stomach.
No, it wasn't me. It was your stomach or something. Even the tenant's not here right now.
Okay. Do you get to go out much? I mean, do you get outside because of the...
I try to. I go for walks. I go to the grocery. I go shopping. But, like, nobody really can go out. I got to get the vaccine. I haven't done that, so just a lot to do, you know.
Well, you should get
N95.
Got to wear an N95 mask.
Yeah, I do that. But it's just, you know, going out. You know, you really don't want to go out. And if I was let loose, I'd like to travel. I'd like to get on planes and go different places.
Well, those are good stocks to buy.
Like planes?
Yeah, because as soon as it recovers, they're going to go. I mean,
that's right. Okay.
You know, it's always good to buy when they've already gone up quite a bit, but it's like they were just creamed. Like, you know, I think it was Southwest Airlines was $7. You know, now it's 24, but it used to be 50, so it's still got a ways to go. But
yeah,
you know, it's just weird how these things that got creamed, but they haven't recovered yet. And it seems like as soon as you unleash people, there's going to be so many people. But it's really, this virus is crazy because it's so spreadable, and we know that because the masks virtually wiped out, and washing your hands, the flu. I mean, there's very few people have the flu because it worked.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, and it worked so well, right? So the thing is, look how the virus is still spreading even when people still have those masks on, washing their hands. Yeah. So that means it's, you know, this isn't anything to goof around with at all, you know. Yeah.
No, it isn't. We're going to have almost 500,000 people dead before it's over. And
it might be more than that. You know?
We just got to 101 million people in the world that's been infected.
That killed? Yeah.
500 in the United States.
I think we have 400 and something, yeah, so far.
Yeah, it's I'd say 400. It'll top 500,000 when we're done. Right now it's 425 or something.
I'd be shocked if it was only 5. You know, just because it's really, right now it's like 4,000 a day. It's like really a lot.
Yeah, well, in Los Angeles County in November, there were 5 deaths a day. And about 2 weeks ago, there were 659 on one day.
That's just nuts. So, you know, and my thing is, I was telling people, and my brother, who's a doctor, agrees, is that they should have just put the first shot into as many arms as possible, because that actually gave a pretty decent number of protection. And then work on putting the second shots in arms instead of doing 2 shots. You know, then you get the shot, and then you're waiting, then you put another shot in there. Just, you know, you have 30,000 shots. Get those into arms within a week, you know, and don't worry about, it's like the whole thing about worrying about, I know, it's just frustrating. They're always so worried about these people getting one, just start getting them into arms of I think teachers should all get them first. People that work at grocery store. You know, if you're around people and elderly people, right? I should at least get it right now. But it's like, I mean, if you have shots just sitting there and there's not enough people to put in the arms, you need to do something different.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. It's sort of frustrating a little bit.
Yeah, this is California ICUs are almost capacity. That is correct. They have refrigeration trucks at the morgues and the funeral homes, and getting the funerals done takes a long time. There's so many, and if you're in an ambulance and they don't think they can revive you, you're not going to get the treatment. Ambulances have to wait a couple of hours in line to offload their patients.
Yeah, I think it was Pfizer was the first one, right? Is that the first one that was out?
Yeah. And
so that one has to be cold storage. Then we had Moderna, which is still a 2-shotter, but it doesn't need the cold storage. And then Johnson & Johnson is supposedly coming out soon-ish, and that has 1 shot, but maybe it's 85%. That'd be great, because the flu shot's only 50 or 60% effective.
Yeah. You know? No, I got a flu shot, but I have to go get my COVID shot yet. I haven't done that yet.
They're saying Johnson & Johnson's only 55%. Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
That's
nobody
not
should
good.
take that then.
That's
You gotta
not in.
have it.
Yeah. Because, they're even saying the first shot of Moderna, there's studies that say that's 80% effective. It's the second one, though, that just... I mean, what's amazing about the second dose is it almost gives everybody a little stronger immune response, where they've got achy muscles, or they don't feel good for a day or two. The first shot doesn't even do anything to most people, maybe just a sore arm spot, but apparently the second shot really boosts your immune system.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, a booster. But man, the first shot, if it does 80, get it into people's arms. Just Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I got to go down and get my appointment. My friend got one, and he got in right away, and it worked out. So I want to start traveling again.
You should go get yours. Yeah, and I think they should allow people to fly planes if you've got you're totally vaccinated. I mean, get on planes. Yeah,
that's what I want to do. Is I want to get on a plane and stop being at home all the time. I'm really tired of that.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah. Well, I gotta pretty hanging up in a few minutes.
Oh yeah. So. where are you gonna go though if you go somewhere?
Yeah, we're going. But I do want to see if anybody has any last questions or comments.
Where would you go if you could fly?
I would go to Salt Lake City to see the new lab. I would go to New York to see some friends that I really miss. I might go to New Orleans, but my family lives there, and I don't know whether I should go see them or not. Those would be my immediate. Maybe Philadelphia. I don't know. I'm a member of the VDOC Society. I don't know if you know that. Any people out there know what that is. And I'd like to go to some of their meetings when they start having them again and stuff like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you remember? The third show recommendation was the Jinx.
It was the Jinx. Yeah. Right.
Oop, there goes my stomach. Yeah, it did make that sound.
Inside and Long Shot are the ones that came up. I'll probably think of all kinds. I mean, Orangutan Jungle School, I really like that. I watched that instead of the presidential debate. I couldn't stand it, so I went to watch Orangutan Jungle School. That was a lot. That's cute. I like that. Yeah, everybody knows VDOC. VIDOCQ.
Yeah. I don't know. Somebody's talking about Johnson & Johnson again in there. But I don't know. I'm going to wait for the official results. I've heard it was better than the 55.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I don't know. We're struggling with the boy in the box. There in too many updates now, but when there are, I'll let everybody know.
Oh, boy in the box. Okay.
It's a good one, but nothing really.
I'm always shocked when there's so many Jane and babies, like young kids that are Jane Does and John Does.
Yeah, it's like, I'm aware of that.
How come people couldn't, didn't somebody go, hey, I'm missing a kid, and you notice it? I mean, it seems bizarre to me, especially. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the cold case hits of the year was I think a child that was found, and they thought they knew the father, and then they found the father had been married and had other kids with the wife, and all those kids were missing. So they thought he had it was a serial killer. He just killed the kids after a while. He didn't want them anymore.
Well, the Long Island serial killer, right? The Gilgo Beach. I know that. Yeah, so there's there's the mom and there's a child and the mother, right? And then they even have the jewelry that the kid had, the little toddler and the mom. And you would think, just putting that out there, that there's somebody would go, I'm missing my niece or, my sister, and she had a kid.
Yeah.
It just seems amazing to me that nobody in all those years would have even...
Well, what we were finding was a lot of those people were from broken homes. That you find a young person that's on the street, and John and Jane Doe. Yeah. There's nobody really looking for them because mom thinks they're with dad. Dad thinks they're with mom. They both think kid ran away, and we're living with friends somewhere, and nobody keeps track of them, and they wind up dead. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, but you'd think somebody would think about the the toddler part though. Maybe they. Well, I guess it's once removed, right? Just kidding.
Once removed relative.
Not really, but
the toddler. They say in like Bellido, from Cape Cod or around the Boston area. The neighbor kind of said, well, what happened to your toddler? And he said, oh, well, she's gone off to stay with my sister for a while. The gal's dead. Gal's dead.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. That was really great. I really appreciate you coming on. It was...
You're great. It's great. It's always great to just chat, sit around.
Yeah.
Like sitting around with your friends anyway, kind of just talking.
Yeah.
Getting...
You can come on whenever the hell you want, too. Like if you're sitting around, you go, Ray, what are you doing?
Yeah, hey,
you can come on.
I went in for a while.
I mean, you can just hang out and I can go over a case like I normally do, and you can throw in your thoughts,
Yeah, okay. I thought you were only on Fridays. Duh. You see, I'm a real, no. I'm really, out of the whole social media type stuff. I'm like a dork. A social media dork.
Well, I do basically a show every day, and then sometimes I come on and do an earlier one, then a later one if there was some breaking news.
Junkie. There it is.
Gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Yeah.
So,
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see. If you have breaking news, let me know, or I'll just drop in. Maybe every now and then, just give me a buzz. Say, can you drop in for a few minutes tonight? And I'll say, yeah, probably. And I'll just drop in as sort of like a hello. How you guys doing?
It never works that way because we always start talking and it turns into
I know.
It doesn't happen.
I know. It's fine though. We can, if you have a breaking development or something, that'd be great.
Yeah. No, it'd be cool. Awesome. Well, let me know. Give me the information where I can actually, get it all set up, and I'll send the money in to the charity that will fund.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk to him again. We looked up, and there wasn't a PayPal button, and I asked them about that, and they were like, "Oh my God, there's no PayPal button," but there is other means. I'll buzz you. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I can pay it in any way I want because I can transfer PayPal back into my own.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
If you go to Intermountain Forensics, and you look at the banner, the last one on the right is donate. And that's where you would go to donate. And so just to direct you in that direction, when you're ready to make the donation, I will call them and I will make sure that it gets in and it's all right.
Yeah, maybe there's a way that I can denote it too or something. I don't know if they have a little message you can send with it. Well, we'll figure it out.
Yes, there is. But I want to just give them a heads up before you do that so they know.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and I have to set up the billing that it would go to Intermountain from Astria to Intermountain, stuff like that. But listen, we're good, and that would be just about enough to take care of the man.
Yeah, well,
hopefully
I'll do whatever if there's an extra thing. I mean, I'll do it. I'll just take it out of future months and to put it back in there into the. I'll pay it early though. I've got the funds where I'll pay it early and then.
Yeah, and I'll get on the technical end. I'll coordinate everything, so you don't have any. I'll talk about it with you and let you know where I'm at. So
awesome. Do some updates.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you very much. Good. Okay, that was awesome. I think
we'll wish you guys a good weekend, and we'll talk soon.
All right. You have a good weekend too. See you later.
I'll try to. You too.
All right. See you. Bye.
How do I sign off? Okay. Bye, guys.
I'll just close it. All right. See you.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah. Yeah, that was Colleen Fitzpatrick. She's awesome. Yeah. So, anyways, I think it's really cool what she taught us tonight. Now I have a better picture of kind of how it works. It'd be interesting to see the whole process. Collecting the DNA, and then, okay, here we go. We got this DNA, and then we put it in this machine, and then it spits out this thing, and then we move it over here, that kind of thing. Just the whole detailed process of it. Very interesting. Thanks, Sarah L. That was that little video that you just saw me up there on the donation was an actual reaction I got when a voice started talking behind my head. You know, I actually had stuff to talk about, but I've already been on here for 2 hours and 45 minutes. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay, here's something I'll just tell you guys. Do you guys remember the case where it was a carnival worker and they found 2 dead bodies, and he goes, oh, well, I had a gun, and then I tripped and it went off. It just, or some crap like that. Then he said a third missing person, he was driving over a bridge, and her body just bounced out of the back of the pickup truck. You remember that one? I kind of described it funny. I made everybody laugh. You know, my sarcasm on his stupid story about that. Let's see. I think it's this one. I can't remember now. Hold on a second. Yeah, maybe this one.
Found human Washington County investigators.
Okay, here's what happened. The girl that he says bounced out of his truck off that bridge into the water was actually found right next to his property, hidden under rocks. So he had put her there, but just claimed that she flew out of his truck.
Investigators say they now have found human remains, which they believe to be the 3rd victim in a murder case that dates back to 2019. The Washington County, Virginia Sheriff said the remains were found in the 3000 block of Mendota Road. This would be the 3rd of 3 women that James Wright has, according to authorities, admitted to killing. This was back in 2019. Kelly Grossfield tells us what led investigators to the discovery of those remains.
One family is finally getting closure after the sheriff's office announced earlier today that the remains they found did match those of 25-year-old Athena Hobson.
For almost 2 years, the whereabouts of Athena Hobson's body has remained a mystery. James Wright, the man facing charges in her death, previously told authorities he believed her body fell off his truck and into the North Fork of the Holston River. But on January 11th, investigators received a tip leading them to the 3000 block of Mendota Road, where they found skeletal remains.
The skeletal remains were collected and sent to the Western District Roanoke office of the medical examiners, and the DNA analysis was conducted, and we came up with a positive identification on Athena Huff Hobson.
Officers say the search was conducted near Wright's home, a familiar area.
Yeah, so they said between the 3000 and 4000 block, that's 3000, that's 4000. In between there, oh, and guess what? He lives right there. So I would imagine that the body was probably up here somewhere. There's even another little road that goes up there, but I doubt Google Earth drove up there. Yeah, didn't think so. But he lives right here on this one. So up there. A really, you know, kind of a spooky area. So that was one of the updates, is that, I mean, he's a serial killer. They just caught him really early on in his life as a serial killer, basically. Let me see something. I think I even had a, this is it right here, I think. Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming to the sheriff's office this morning. We have updates.
It's only coming out of the left side, so don't go, hey, I can't hear it, I can't hear it. That just means you have crappy headphones, okay?
Dates on a previous murder investigation that we've been conducting here in Washington County, Virginia. On January the 11th, 2021, the Washington County Sheriff's Office responded back to the scene of previous murders involving 3 victims in the Mendota area of Washington County. Detectives going on a tip went back to that area where search was conducted and skeletal remains were found. The skeletal remains were collected and sent to the Western District Roanoke office of the medical examiners, and the DNA analysis was conducted, and we came up with a positive identification on Athena Huff Hobson, one of the victims that James Michael Wright in that Mendota area we think murdered. The medical examiner's office, we haven't got a complete analysis of everything there from them, but preliminary investigation on Miss Hobson's death is due to a gunshot wound. Hobson, she was reported missing March 2019 by the Johnson City Police Department. She was reported to be in the company of Mr. Wright. Later on, whenever the investigation led to the other 2 bodies there on the property, Mr. Wright explained that Miss Hobson's body had accidentally went into the North Fork of the Holston River. So we have recovered that body. It wasn't in the Holston River, and the investigation is continuing into that murder. Mr. Wright, he's currently being held at the Southwest Virginia Regional Jail. And we would like to thank the
by the way, my wife just told me it's 66% on the Johnson & Johnson.
cooperation with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the Johnson City Police Department, and the Carter County Sheriff's Office in Tennessee. Any questions?
Clarify the area where the remains were found.
It was in the Mendota area, around where Mr. Wright lived.
Do we have a street intersection?
3000 block of Mendota Road. Yeah.
Now, you said this tip came in early January. I mean, how has the investigation been progressing since 2019?
We've done numerous searches in that area regarding some other cases coming out of Tennessee. We were looking for a body that we were working with Sullivan County on a current case that they're doing, and of course we had this one, and so we were searching for 2 different victims in that area. So we have located this victim.
That cause of death, you said it was a single gunshot wound?
It was an apparent gunshot wound. We haven't got the complete analysis back yet, but we suspect there's more than one.
Have you spoken to the Hobson family in regards to finding them?
Yes, we have.
The victim witness program through my office, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, notified the family yesterday.
Can you share what their reaction was to this news finally getting closure?
Well, I think it is some level of closure for them. They were not glad to get the news, but it's a sad event, and they're at least happy to have the remains of their loved one, certainly.
Josh, can you talk about this case where it goes moving forward, what the next steps are?
Sure. The case has once again been continued for preliminary hearing. That's not due to any...
Here, just to throw it out there, it also says that it's only 66 from preventing it, but extremely effective in preventing severe disease. Okay, there you go.
Anything with the investigation, that's due to the COVID-19 pandemic that has unfortunately continued all of our big cases. This is certainly the biggest. I'd like to think that we'll get a lot of movement on the case through the spring, and I feel very good that in 2021 this case will be finalized.
Have you said whether you're going to see?
Well, the death penalty is on the table. He's charged with 3 counts of capital murder. However, it's still very early to even kind of prognosticate what the end result might be.
Can you talk about the area where the body was found, and it is an area that, had you searched that area before, or kind of walk me through that if you would?
Without going into too much detail, I think officers had been in the area, and the body...
Hey, what Susanna just said isn't true. The Brazil strain is not as affected by the vaccine, but it's not... It doesn't, she said, what did she say? It's resistant, I mean, it's not resistant to all existing vaccines. It just means it's not quite as effective, okay? I don't know if we're just mixing, parsing words there, but, resistant makes it sound the way you worded it like it really can't be affected. It just means it's not quite as effective. Maybe, let's say it's 70% instead of 95%.
The remains were hidden underneath some rubble and stuff.
Was it close to where the other bodies?
It was in close proximity, I guess, within, quarter mile, eighth of a mile.
Has Mr. Wright been informed of this?
I can't answer that because I haven't been in contact with his team of attorneys. I would imagine they know.
Resistant just means slightly. The way you're wording it makes it seem like, oh my God, they need a whole new vaccine. They don't need a whole new vaccine.
What do you mean as far as
Of Mr. Wright.
They've already been recovered.
No, what I'm saying, might there be beyond the 3?
We don't suspect that, no. It was very early in his, I guess, criminal career.
But I'll tell you one thing, it would suck if you're going to have to, that is Brazil you're talking about. Not a lot of rocket scientists over there. Like the worst crime rate in the history of it's just a nightmare over there. So anyways, basically they found another body. That guy was a serial killer in the making, no doubt about it. He just screwed up too early to keep on killing, right? Yeah, I mean, it does seem like it's really crappy that they're going to have to keep coming up with new vaccines all the time now. That's kind of what Susanna is, probably what they're saying is that, you're almost going to have to come up with sort of this nimble vaccine creation. But how do we have to do this forever? I mean, like, okay, here's a new variant. Okay, new vaccine. Everybody line up again. We got to pump your arms full again. Okay, we got to. I mean, that's a nightmare. Who the hell wants to deal with that? I mean, I'd like to just get rid of the damn thing. Yeah, there might be a few, Susanna. Maybe a couple. Yeah. If they were so brilliant, they could stop some of their crime. Maybe give some of the money they get from oil to the rest of the people, so that they weren't, living in poverty. Yeah. But sure, I'm sure there's some smart people there. It doesn't matter if I've been there or not. You probably got to go to the really nice places. Yeah, but the flu isn't anywhere near as contagious as this one, though, right? It's not even close. Yeah, see, the thing is, comparing it to the flu isn't really... the flu also goes away in the summertime here. Yeah, so that's the whole thing is in here, the flu goes away, and then they study the variant that goes on and where it's winter somewhere else, and then they make the vaccine here to prepare us for that strain as it comes to our country, right? So the thing is this is totally different than that. The coronavirus survives in the winter. It even seems to thrive because people are all huddled up together. It way more transmittable, and it's way more deadly to older people than the flu is. And not just because more people got it, just in general. Right? Now, young people, it seemed they're almost immune to the damn thing. I mean, there are some that get it, and it has killed a couple kids here and there, but it's very, very rare. So, gosh, it almost seems like we just, I'd like to just stop it somehow. It's a freaking nightmare, you know? The thing is we need to get quicker with the shots. If you can vaccinate every single person in the country in a month by opening up, like having places everywhere that have shots and the availability to get a vaccine delivered to them quickly, you put the shots in people's arms, the virus goes away. Okay? It does do that. If everybody had it, there wouldn't be enough people that could catch it to keep the virus surviving. One of the problems they were having was that in hospitals, the very, very sick people were incubators for the virus, and the virus would keep mutating and mutating and finding ways to survive in itself, creating these other strains, and then the doctors would maybe catch it, or a nurse, then it spreads out in the community. So the great thing is now they're immunizing all of the doctors and nurses so that won't happen anymore. So now it'll at least be just sort of spreading amongst people. But man, it's bizarre. So we need to get more shots into people's arms. That's the truth. And I don't give a damn what they have to do. yeah, exactly. Susanna. I mean, I don't know. There's some people that just aren't going to take the vaccine. And that's a sad thing in this particular, what we're dealing with here, because it'll just keep it going. I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I mean, we've had other pandemics like this, but this one's really easy to catch. It's airborne. You know, it's... Yeah, it seems like it'd be easier in a country like Israel to do it, too, because it's smaller. You just kind of... A lot of people, but they're more densely packed in there, and you could just... You know, like New York is an absolute failure. Anybody... You know, at first it was kind of cool, like Cuomo seemed like, okay, wow. But he was an absolute disaster and a joke. And I don't know if you guys heard the news, but he actually... what do you call it? The people who died, that were in nursing homes that were almost dead, were transferred to hospitals, and then they died in the hospital, and all those numbers were assigned to the hospitals. They made sure, not the nursing homes, because he wanted the nursing home deaths to remain low, even though that's where they got it. Okay, so just know that. Didn't use the ships, didn't use the ventilators, didn't use any of the crap that he demanded, even though it was all given to him. Yeah, I think it's hard to make a vaccine mandatory. It should be, but I think they made some mandatory, though, right? Didn't they make some mandatory at some point? I don't know if it was like measles or polio or something like that. Yeah, polio, yeah. I don't know if this... man, it's just really... You know, and it's weird, too, because this thing only has a 1.5% death rate, even when you catch it. You know, people who catch it, that's the rate. So it's not like a horrendously lethal virus, but it's just the sheer percentages of people that get it because of how easily it spreads. You know, if you have 100 million people that catch it, well, 1% of 100 million is a huge number, right? Like, let's see, if you had 1 million people, 1% would be 10,000 people. Or, yeah, 10,000. No, that's way more than that. No, that's 10,000 people. So if you had 100 million people, that would be 100,000 people dead. Right? How many do we have? We have 400,000 right now, right? I don't know if my math is correct. I think if it's 100 million, it'd be a million. All right. So if 100 million people got it, you'd have a million dead. 200 million would be 2 million dead. That'd be if you just let it run rampant in society. And the vaccines are more effective than a self-immunity. You know, when you get the virus and you get over it, the vaccines are more effective than that. So people that go, oh, I got it, I'm safe now. Well, you know, you're not quite as protected as even getting the Moderna vaccine. Okay, Susanna. Brazil's awesome. I know, you've been there, so it's great. I mean, it's beautiful country over there in places. I'm just saying, man, there is a lot of crime over there. A ton of it. I don't even know why these countries let their countries go to hell like that. It's unreal. Yeah. Anyways, I think I'm done, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. I thought it was really awesome. I mean, I feel like as a team, we're going to get this whole genealogy thing. We're all going to know it really well. And yeah, socialism doesn't work. My mouth doesn't work right this minute. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys liked it. I did have other stuff, but I'm just tired now. I want to rest. Hope you feel better, Truth Sleuth. Or anybody else who's not feeling well? Yeah, thanks. It's easy to do a good show when Colleen's on. I can tell you that. Okay, hold on. I gotta fix this audio really quick. Whoa! God, I was able to stop that just in time before it blew out my ears. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go.
All right. Thank you to Jess Tomley, Rita Schaefer, No Girl, Fiber Sloop, Jody William, Claudia Neubauer, Tracy Harrison, Truth Sleuth, Tracy, Michelle Miklas, Emily Flotilla, and a cat eye donation from Mag. And another cat eye donation from Susanna McGilla-Padrig. Rita Schaefer, Wally Gator, Claudia Neubauer, Sarah Beth Colagras, Claudia Neubauer, Wally Gator again, Cindy Leon, Emily Flotilla, Rita Schaefer, VP, Lanky Tor, Sarah M, and Kit Kat.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We're going to have our donation night coming up in 2 days. One more regular night show, and then boom. That's what I'm talking about. The Generous Freak family. I did a flyby last night. I think tonight I'm just gonna do the wrap. But thank you guys very much. Alright, so thank you all for showing up tonight, and make sure you wash your hands, maintain your social distancing, and for God's sakes, wear a mask. Alright? So that's it, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Colleen, for coming on to the show. It was awesome having you again. And as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there. Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person...
Hey, Gray, there's thundering lightning, Gray. What's the thundering lightning?
Dissector.
Oh, there it goes. It went away.
Human lie detector.
Yeah, it went away, Mary. Jesus.
On a stretcher, if you try and play me like an old projector.
Crime sector, here's my nectar. Another Gray is gonna give another lecture.
Crime collector, freak connector.
And I'm always gonna
be a pup protector. Fool deflector, interceptor. And I mean a specter with a vector on his pector. With all respect, y'all. Just remember I've attempted to fucking check ya. I have no agenda, I'm no pretender, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender. Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. Alright, everybody? Talk to you later.
Alright, man, that was really interesting. Really cool show. I learned a lot.
Well, what did you learn?
Well, I learned about the first cousin, the first cousin once removed, the second removed, and all that kind of thing.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, you know, your mom's brother's kid's kid.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but she said it right, okay? What the hell are you talking about, John Boy? She said it right.
Oh, okay. I guess I wasn't paying attention then.
Yeah, John Boy, gosh, you're so mean.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't bring you back up again to give you the chance to get your cry in, okay?
It's not a treat. The troll is bait. Just one of the ways that I defeat it. Staying in my groove. When there's a troll on the move, this takes a second to remove. Cause every time I conclude, the troll is gonna lose. My Just try, lizard eye, I see you creeping on the sly. Why you think you're so fly when you're such a whiny cry? Battle me, you're gonna fry. Gonna send you out to modify. Time to say goodbye.
Chewbacca?
Oh, I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to.
Be safe out there.